Hey everybody, ReefGrrl here, and welcome to ReefGrrl Live. I'm so glad you could make it. The whole idea here is to have some fun, chat, ask a few questions, maybe show us what you're doing, and get to know each other a little bit better. So sit back, relax, grab a drink. The stream is about to begin. Hi everybody, so glad to see you all. It's another Saturday night and we'll see what develops tonight. I'm hoping to have a couple of people in who have updates for things they've been doing. And I have a few things to show you and tell you about with my build. And first I'm going to say hi to everyone who's over here. Tony Close UK Reef. Tony. Bad day while siphoning rocks from algae. Took my eyes off the end of the tube and lost multiple candy cane heads. I'm devastated. Oh man. Yeah, well, it happens. It's happened to all of us. That the whole thing that I had where I did a whole video on keeping my hands out of the tank and the sort of chain reaction that happens when you don't keep your hands out of the tank. I mean, what you were doing is probably something that was necessary, and it's just so easy for something like that to happen. Hi, Taryn's Little Ocean. Nice to see you, Taryn. And look, there's Filipino Reefer, Benny. I'm glad you could make it, Benny. I know you've had a lot going on today. Cool. Hi, Diacanthus. Thanks for stopping by. And there's Camaro Kid. Let's get this party started. Oh, wait, Rochelle. You can't resist, can you? I have my Diet Pepsi caffeine free in a can, which cans have not been available for, I want to say, 7 or 8 months. And my husband found a case of cans at the grocery store this morning. And I have my Rooibos tea. It is just tea, trust me. In my Christmas gift, ReefGrrl Customized Yeti. So that's what I've got going on here. Okay, Camaro Kid, where did I leave off? Map Dog Gaming. Okay, hello everyone. Haven't seen you before. All right, so I'll start out by showing you guys some of the things that went on this week, one of which I did put on Instagram, and I'm going to be doing an unboxing. Check it out. Can you see? Which way do I go with the camera? This way. Yep. Gyres. 2 of them. And I've peeked in the box, but I want to do a proper unboxing because there's a couple things I'm already impressed with and I haven't even really had it out of the box yet. So look for that video coming up. Then what else happened? I had a video clip about, oh yeah, here are the tanks today, the holding tank, the 90 gallon, and Mollywood. And my daughter took these videos because we are going to be starting to move everything in the coming week. I'm not going to move it all at once because that would not be a good idea. I think the new sump setup, the 150 area, it's all stable enough. Parameters are good, although I am working to get the nutrients up, and that's kind of why I'm going to take my time and there will be a delay. I'm actually dosing nitrate and phosphate for the first time ever. It's fauna, marin, elementals, N and P. And because of that, I got the Hannah Checker nitrate test, which if you follow me on Insta, you'll know what happened with that. I'll show you guys the picture, and anyone who didn't see that, I'll share kind of an issue I had with that. But anyway, here are the 2 tanks as of today. Here's what they look like. This one's Mollywood. I've already moved a couple corals, and that glow stick, the acrylic rod, is to hold the toadstool up because I had to cut it away from the rock structure. It was growing right on the bridge across the 2 rock pieces, and so to prepare it to move, I cut it off earlier in the week so that it could have a chance to heal a little bit. And then, of course, it slumped over, and here's the 90. And I had to run over to my daughter's place and rescue the Scully and the orange Cinerina. and they look good. They really look good. So thank goodness I was able to do that, because now I don't have to worry about them. So that's today, what they look like. And then the other thing that happened today is I checked the filter floss in the trash can overflow. I finally made the egg crate rack that I'm going to use to hold sheets of filter floss. And I'm going to create little pyramids so they're a little bit higher in the middle to allow the water to kind of run off down the sides. And check this out. All right, let's see how the filter floss is doing in here. Haven't looked at it for a couple of days. Whoa. Wow. Yeah, so even with the new tank and there's no fish in here, there is a lot of crud in the water. Maybe because I've been feeding to try and up the nutrients, I don't know, but yeah, it's good. Show you my corals that I have in here while we're up here. Don't have a filter on here, so a little hard to see the colors, but everything's doing well other than that right there. Very pale, but not white. Yeah, so that's today. And on Friday, when I was there doing the maintenance, etc., that I do 3 times a week, I took some point and shoot video of both tanks, and I will be putting out a video this week with that. It's kind of like the final update for the temporary situation before everything starts getting moved over into the sump area of the new build. So yeah, and I can't remember if I told you guys this last week, but I heard from the LFS that aquarium guy is waiting, the guy that's building my aquarium is just waiting on the glass to come back from being polished and the stand. So I'm guessing that means that once the glass is polished, it'll get assembled. And, or does he put it together first? I don't know. I don't know how they do those things. I guess I should try and find out, because it would be interesting to put it in the video when I get it. And also the stand. I don't know whether it's coming back from welding and he's going to do the powder coating. I have no idea, and add the steps. But that was kind of exciting. And also I've been reassured that it's not just going to show up at my house, which was what I was getting kind of worried about, because we need a little bit of prep time to empty the garage so that the tank and the stand can be put in the garage, and I can arrange to have someone bring it into the house. Above me are going to be things on the ceiling to hold the lights. And we don't want to bring the tank in until those things are in place. My husband spent a lot of time this week measuring with a laser and all that kind of stuff, creating the structure, drilling holes, plasti dipping J-bolt hooks to hang the lights on, and stuff like that. So kind of feels like it's moving a little faster now. That's exciting. Let's see who else came in while I was chatting away. There's Diacanthus, I said hi. Camaro's kid. Mapdog Gaming. Hey, Dan. Dan Middleton, nice to see you. Broke Reef Man 45. Hey, Paul. Hope you're doing well. There's Click Clacks Reef. Wow, Click Clacks. So nice to see you. And I understand you're getting another tank. So this is good. If it means you're coming back. Gyres are great. Okay, he's the devil. Okay, that's good advice. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I bought it with my own money. So whatever happens, I did do some reading, and also like what I could find. Also watched a few videos, and people who have them generally seem happy with them. And the improvements that have been made since the other type of jar, which I'm pretty sure they still sell, there's a whole range of jump products. There's a skimmer, there's pumps. I think there might be power heads aside from the jar. I'm not 100% sure about that. Anyway, people seem generally pretty happy with them. And it's the usual thing when you've got these water moving devices, you have to keep them clean and maintained. And I've always done that, so that doesn't really bother me. And it's a plus that this new design is easier to take apart and put back together again. So a lot fewer F-bombs from the kitchen. Hey, Ugly Man's Reefing. Glad you could make it. Yeah, can't wait to get something wet yet, I bet. I'm starting to feel a little excited at the prospect of moving the whole reef back into my house. Because even though it's only 15 minutes away, it means I've got to get dressed, look presentable, and drive there. And my grandson has started daycare now because his dad's going to be going back to work. My daughter's already back at work, but she works in the house. And so he's not even there for me to visit with when I go there. So I have to stay out of my daughter's, I have to be really quiet because my tank is in a room adjacent to my daughter's home office. So I just want it back here. I stand in front of the sump. There's nothing in there except some coral, and I just stare at it. I look at this, I look at that. I take a lid off. I look underneath. Yeah, I really miss it. Hey, Johnny Martinez. How are you doing? Love your temp setup. Yeah, it's it's pretty jankety. It's so bad that I did send a video to Fish of Hex for the tank roast. So we'll see what he has to say about the nightmare that's surrounding that tank. And I've got power heads on the front glass and you name it. Hey, Skinner JW, welcome. And there's Straight Reefer. I've been working hard. Click Clacks has been working hard to get the house how she wants it so I can get what I would like. Yeah. Well, you know what they say, happy wife, happy life. And I guess that's why I'm lucky enough to be getting this, like what I feel is going to be a pretty awesome reef tank. So we'll see. All right. Alice. Camaro Kid. That is his demeanor, but Carlos is a whiz. Have ice cap 4K. Yes, he's abrupt, but got the job done. Yeah, that's good to know. And you know, a lot of it also comes down to, like, I mean, have you ever had a bad day and then you've got somebody who's got a problem and you have to try and solve the problem? And like, not all of us are. I mean, I can certainly get pretty testy on the phone depending on the reception I get. So it's one of those things when you're in customer service, it's not an easy job. Oh, hey, Alex G's Aquarium. Yay. Evening all. Once I get some work done in the tank, I'll hop into the live stream. Oh, that's great. Alex had water in some of his tanks today. So that's pretty amazing. I can't just say hi to Alex. So I don't know, until we have someone pop in, or if anybody wants the link, let me know. Maybe I should check my email, see if anyone's asked for it. Not yet. I don't know if you guys have any questions about what's going on here. Oh, Alice. Poor Carlos dealing with me on a Sunday, LOL. That's funny. Well, and of course, the other issue we have here in Canada is that we're in Canada and most of the support is in the US. I'm sure I could get in touch with the Canadian distributor, but I haven't looked into, see, that's something I don't really do very often, is actually look into the location of the customer service. And I probably really should see where they are, what the deal is. Will I just get transferred to the US or another country? Yeah. But I guess I've been pretty lucky and I've not very often had to deal with customer service other than that horrible bubble mega skimmer that I had. And that was not, I did not appreciate how all of that went down. But anyway, I'm over it. I don't even want to destroy the skimmer body by blowing it up with a potato cannon anymore. So I still have it. I don't have the pump because I gave that to Hector. But anyway. Oh, I see. That is a good question. Do the tanks still have water in them, Alex G? Well, hopefully we'll find that out when you get a chance to come on in. wonder if I've got anything else here. I did upload a bunch of things earlier. Maybe I've got a picture. Oh yeah, about the Hannah checker. So I got the nitrate checker because the nitrate in the new system is so low I can't read it. I'm guessing based on looking through the side of the vial with a Salifert test that it's 0.02. And the nitrate in the holding tank is somewhere around 10. Phosphate over there is 0.05, which is fine. A little low, but it's okay. And over here was undetectable. So I got some elementals P for the phosphate and I started using that. And I finally got a reading yesterday of 0.09. So it is, I'm underdosing because that's what I always do. I don't mind going slowly. I have been putting food in the system, as you saw with the filter floss. I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to clean it because right now I need the nutrients. So hopefully it'll degrade and contribute nitrate and phosphate to the system. And so I got the Hannah checker and I opened it up and I looked at a couple videos because I got all confused by the whole dilution aspect of it. And I didn't quite understand that you only need to do dilution if you have nitrates, if you feel they're higher than 5, between 5 and 50. So once I figured that out, I went ahead, started getting everything ready. And when I got to the point where I had to draw up exactly 4 mils of the reagent, the liquid, out of the little bottle, this is what I had. This is what I pulled out of the kit that they gave me. Yeah, anybody see the problem there? If you said no markings on the syringe, you win because that's a 5 mil syringe and there are no markings on it. So I was pretty unhappy about that. I ended up using the 1 milliliter pipette because I know how to properly measure accurately with a pipette. You don't just draw it up into the bulb. There's a certain way you have to do it to make sure that you account for the airspace and all of that. So that's fine. I did that. I ran the test and it is, the nitrate was indeed 0.02 parts per million. So it's something, and I'm building on that. I have the elementals N now, and I'm going to dose it again tonight. This will be the second night in a row. And then tomorrow I'll test and just see. I'll leave it overnight and see where the nitrate levels are, whether it's increasing them at all. So that's kind of what I've been trying to handle with the new system to get it ready, because I have there's a lot of coral in the other system. A lot of it is LPS coral. There are some soft corals in Mollywood, and of course everything's going to go in that 150. So I don't want to put those corals or those rocks and everything into a system with no nutrients in it. It's I feel it's going to be a shock, and that's the last thing I need right now is a shock that's going to start RTNing the few acropora that I have left, that have valiantly come back from the ammo lock incident. So that's why I'm going into the nitrate and phosphate dosing, is just to bring it up in that new system so that there's less of a difference between the holding tank, Mollywood, and the new system. So we'll see how that goes, right? He is going to rip you a new one. LOL, brave lady. Hoo-hee. Hoo-hee. I can't remember what I said. My husband? Broke Reef Man. Alex G. Knowing you in plywood tanks, I bet no leaks. Yeah, and it's one of those things that's why you do the leak testing. That's another thing we're going to need to do before we bring the tank in the house, I think, is do leak testing, since it's going to be traveling 3,000 miles to get here. I don't know. On a truck? I have no idea. Hard to imagine they would fly it, but I don't know. Maybe they will. This is a picture I grabbed just in case I couldn't show you the gyre on the camera. And shout out to two Canadian companies, reefsupplies.ca. They're based in Montreal and Quebec. And Aquarium Depot, who is based in Toronto area, GTA. Aquarium Depot got me that light in like overnight. It was really, really fast. And Reef Supplies, it was just at one extra day because it came by Canada Post. And so within 2-3 days of when I ordered the gyres, did I say light? I meant gyre. Sorry, so confused. Within a couple of days of ordering them, I had them. So I'm really pleased about that. I have a question for you guys. Maybe you know, and I have not been able to find the answer. The magnets on the back of the gyre, can they go underwater, or are they meant to be dry only? And the reason I ask that is I'm planning on putting them on the back of the tank because the dimensions are 5 feet by 5.5 feet. So if they go side by side on the back, somewhere under the returns, and are aimed forward, can I put the magnet in the overflow? Because that's what's going to be behind there. And I guess that's going to partly depend on the level of the water in the overflow, which I won't know until everything's set up. But I was curious about that. I couldn't really find out whether they can go in the water or whether I need to put them in something to keep them from getting wet. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a certain standard for magnets that go inside the tank underwater, but I'm not really sure if the same standard is applied to magnets that go outside the tank. So if anybody knows that offhand, it'd be great if you could let me know. I love Aquarium Depot. Yes, my husband bought my Red Sea XL 425 from Hussein at Aquarium Depot, and it was soon after they started in business, and they brought the aquarium to the house, like delivered it right to us, no extra charge. And that's in my video of what I got for my birthday. And it was just really, really appreciated. Nice guy, really nice guy, has a nice family. And quite often you can see him at coral shows. They do sell some coral. I think it might be his son that has the coral. No, his son's a little kid. I'm not sure. His brother, maybe, unless I'm totally mixing him up with somebody else. But it's been a while since we've had a coral show, so it'll be really interesting to see who's able to be at the next one, because I really feel for the smaller vendors, especially, who would have been preparing to have all of their stuff in March a year ago at the Niagara Coral Show. So what do you do with all of that stuff if you were fully stocked and ready to go? I have no idea how they would sell it, whether it would just be through the local aquarium club or online or through a local fish store. No idea, because you wouldn't have contact with the same number of people. It's a different environment. So yeah, I bought from them several times. Aquarium Depot. Broke Reefman 45. You're in the US, right? I wonder if it's a different Aquarium Depot down there. That would make sense. Can't wait till we can all meet at a coral show. Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed in my short video about the trash can overflow, there's a Space Invader Pectinia sitting on the frag rack at the front of the 150. That is the little tiny frag that I set aside to give to a friend I made at one of the coral shows. Her name's Kathy. Kathy, I don't know if you still watch, but if you do, it's doing really well. It's, like 2.5 inches across now. It has 3 little eyes right in the middle, and it puts out tentacles and it fluffs up, and yeah, it's so it's doing very well, and it still has your name on it. And the same as Sean Sharbuckles Reef, the baby toadstool. I am going to cut that off and mount it on another rock so that it doesn't have a stem that's 10 inches long. And that one's for you. Right now, it's getting threatened by the green hairy mushrooms. And I try to keep it away from them, but it's not super happy on one side of it. There's no burning, no damage, but the tentacles don't come out very often on that side. So yeah, I'll have to see. Yes. Yes, Broke Reef Man. Okay, yes, you're in the US. And yes, it's a different aquarium depot. Yeah. Hey, Bert Minshew. As far as filtration, what will you have? UV, refugium, skimmer, algae scrubber, filter roller. One of my tanks, only skimmer, and other SPS tank, only algae scrubber. I will definitely have a UV. I will definitely have a refugium. That's what ultimately the 150 will be. And the shallow 50 at the very top will also serve partly as a refugium. That's where I'm planning to grow Chaetomorpha. So the lower refugium is probably where I'll have things like miracle mud. I do have some. I'm getting ready to use it. We are going to have a manifold system in the 150 once the tank is here and everything's moved out of there coral wise. There will be a manifold system with 4 outlets on it. One will be for the UV sterilizer, one will be for an algae scrubber, and the other 2 will be spares. Probably at some point if I decide to run carbon in a reactor or anything else, because you know what happens, you never know what's going to come along. So that's the plan. So for filtration, the pipes are going to come down from upstairs into that green trash can, and the water will land on the filter floss that I have in the center. And as I said, I'm going to turn it into a bit of a pyramid shape so that it isn't flat and the water hopefully spreads out a bit and spreads out the detritus a little bit. We'll see. It's just a theory. I'm not really sure how it's going to work. In the shallow 50, I already have 8 or 9 media bags full of CChem matrix. I have the Cyperax that I brought over from the canisters. The one canister had all the Cyperax in it that had originally been in the sump of the Red Sea tank. And I took one of the canister sponges and put it in there as well, or filter pads. It's not really a sponge, it's more a thick filter pad. So that's all in the shallow 50 along with some chaeto algae. And I know people say, oh, don't use chaeto when you're cycling, but I've always done it. And I think that's one of the reasons I don't get much of an ammonia reading. But it's growing. It's already growing. It's a nice dark green. I have a light hanging over it. That's where I'm putting all of the loose hairy green mushrooms that keep dropping off in Mollywood. And ultimately, I'll trade them in at the LFS for store credit. But for now, it's a great place to keep them isolated from the rest of the system, and they're not going anywhere. I think they've attached their feet to the media bags. And there's also some sand in there. There's some crushed coral, the Florida crushed coral that I removed from Mollywood when I first set it up because I didn't like it in there. It was too coarse a grain. And there's also some sand from the 90. I grabbed about a cup of sand and brought it over and just spread it all out on the crushed coral. So it's kind of it's acting a little bit like a refugium right now. The surface of the 150 has crud floating on it, probably because I just get a big pinch of food and I just put it in there. And I probably should be putting it up on top in the 50. But for whatever reason, I just decided to put it in there, maybe because I thought the corals might gain something from phosphates and stuff as the food softens up. I don't know. But all it did was clog the strainer, and it's floating on the surface. I did have the skimmer running, but only for a couple of days because the oily surface, it took care of that almost immediately. Then once I put the filter floss in, that has helped also. And I don't want to remove the nutrients, obviously, because I'm trying to increase them. So that's when I took the skimmer out. Chad did great, by the way. Out of the box, you even had a 10. And you did really, really well right away. So Yeah, so that's kind of the filtration plan. I do have a whole bunch of rocks that are pretty much cured in the second 100-gallon stock tank along with the heating coil. That's where I put the rocks that I had in a tote. They're actually coral skeletons and some rock. And so I'm sure they're contributing to the overall filtration for the system, but I have no fish in there. I have 2 snails that I brought over to clean up some diatoms that were happening on those rocks once I actually put them in the tank in a real running system and not just in a tote. So yeah, the snails are doing a good job with that. I may bring a few more over, but that's kind of the plan. So I guess I'll find out how it works in terms of how to set up the refugium with in the lower part with the manifold and what the potential is to do other stuff in there because it's going to depend on whether the light can reach it, that kind of thing. Yeah. Some more people to say hi to. Oh yeah, an algae scrubber I will run. Did I say that? On the manifold, the UV sterilizer and an algae scrubber. Hey, Salty Reef. You will be able to have a very heavy bioload. Yeah, I hope so because I want a lot of fish. I want a lot of big fish, and I like to keep my fish fat and healthy. So I do feed heavily. And in the Red Sea tank, I didn't have the right amount of live rock to handle a heavy bioload. And that's when I started using the Seachem Matrix and the Siperax because that provides like easily enough filtration for what I was doing. So it doesn't always have to be live rock. This tank probably will be, it'll probably have less live rock than it actually could have to completely act as filtration. So I'm giving it a head start by putting all those bags of media in there. So yeah, who else is in here? Hey, T40. Oh, thanks, T40. You too. I hope you're doing well. You guys you're a frontline guy, so I hope you're able to get through it all. There's a lot going on. Oh boy, Johnny Martinez. I've been down, girlfriend of 20 years. I'm so sorry, Johnny. Then the VA called me on my scans, came back positive. I'm on radiation, fighting hair algae, getting more out. Wow, that's a lot to be dealing with all at once. I hope you're able to do that. And I guess that the whole thing about having a reef tank is it requires such a lot of focus that it can really help you get through some tough things. So keep us posted, Johnny. I hope the hair algae removal goes well for you. And the radiation, not fun, especially in a pandemic. So really, I don't know if you can see behind me. Yeah, over there. Bags of sand. There's 4 of them. That's half of the sand for the display tank. The other 4 bags are in the garage. They're still in the original boxes that they came in. I haven't opened them yet. So hopefully Reef Supplies didn't include any kind of a little surprise for me or whatever. Not that they've ever done that, but you never know. And I'm waiting to open them until the time comes to actually start rinsing the sand and working on it. It's just the Carib Sea Aragamax. I had always used the Seafloor Special Grade from Carib Sea and couldn't find it in Canada. So that's why I ended up getting the Aragamax. And it's a different sand than I've used before, so we'll see. Let me just put up the email. If anybody wants to be brave and come in, that would be awesome. Then you guys don't have to listen to me the whole night. Bert Minshew, I have almost no live rock in one of my SPS tanks. Sand does it all. I've done tests over the years, and the right sand will handle 10 times the bacterial load as a tank full of rock. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of live streams in the last few days because I've been working downstairs on the rocks and getting them ready. And there's been a lot of talk about, sand versus no sand. People want to go bare bottom because they're looking for a cleaner tank because of the way sand traps detritus. And I've always just fluffed my sand up to get that stuff up into the water column. I did that in the Red Sea tank. And I've said this before, um, I was amazed when I took the big rock structures out of there at how clean it was, especially behind the rocks. And I'm sure that's because I regularly went along and just took a baster and fluffed up the sand and kept it from solidifying, for one thing. And also, it allowed the detritus that gets down in the sand to come up and get into the water column. And also, I was bubble scrubbing. So I would do that right before lights out. And then the bubble scrubbing would come on shortly after that. So all the stuff I was fluffing up in the water could go down the overflow and get trapped and out of the tank. So I never vacuumed that sand. Previous tanks, I had always vacuumed the sand, but I never did in the Red Sea tank. Mollywood was a different story because I had a lot of fish in there, and there were a couple of spots where detritus collected, and it was so bad that I had to siphon it out. I couldn't deal with it just by fluffing the sand. And also, I wasn't bubble scrubbing in that tank, and the flow pattern was different, so it wasn't as easy to get the stuff out of the water via the filter sock and the overflow. So that was an interesting contrast between the two things. And I like the look of sand, and I'm confident that I won't have a problem keeping it clean. And additionally, the amount of sand I got is enough to do roughly an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter through the whole tank. So because of rocks, it of course might be a little deeper here and there, but I don't expect to have a really deep sand bed. I'm not using egg crate in this tank because I'm planning on getting some wrasses, not the green wrasse, not a Helicaries wrasse, because they're they're problem fish. He has always been a problem in my tank. So I'm going to get other types of smaller wrasses, and some of them do require sand. So shallow sand bed should be enough, but I don't want to put egg crate under there because it always has those sharp edges that are really hard to avoid. So this time the rocks are going to go right on the glass. So I've never done that before. Johnny, you're so right. This hobby really helps. The education I get from your stream and all your fans sharing their knowledge. Thank you, Taryn. Salt works good for me. Yeah. Yep. Well, I'll be thinking about you, Johnny. It's hard. Cleanup crew can take care of the sand. Hey, Tony Close. Cleanup crew can take care of the sand. Very true. Conch snails. I love fighting conch snails and Naceria snails, bristleworms, pods. Hey, Sean's fish tanks. Glad you could come by. I like both sand and no sand. Yeah, I can totally see the appeal of the no sand. The only thing is Mollywood has no sand, and some of the corals are starting to encrust on the bottom, but it's harder to keep them where you put them. For one thing, they slide, and I'm not sure I like how coralline algae looks growing on the glass at the bottom. I think maybe because sand is more uniform, whereas the coralline algae is quite patchy here and there. Of course, it won't grow in the shade, so there are huge areas that it's just the bare glass, and there's one corner where it all builds up. And so that's good because it's easy for me to get it out. I just go in there with the long turkey baster. I have a large one and spend about 20 minutes just continually siphoning that water out, turn the ATO off before I start, and then I can just top up with salt water and get a little tiny water change at the same time. And I do like that aspect of it. You can immediately see where the detritus collects. It's always under the power head. Hey, B Speak, nice to see you. Hey, Andy, Eggboy64. Something very satisfying about vacuuming sand. It's true. So true. It's like taking wallpaper off. You become almost addicted to it and you don't want to stop, even though you know you should only do a little bit. Um, it just, you just feel like you're doing something good for your tank. It's the same with the fluffing, with the baster. It's especially when you get down in a spot along a rocks that you maybe missed a couple times in a row, and there's all kinds of dark stuff that comes up, like dark gray. It's really gratifying to get that out of there. And the torches love that stuff, by the way. The turbid water. Hi, Cindy. My job makes it difficult to join lately. Oh, that's too bad. You know, we're the last Sunday of every month. I'm planning on doing an international live stream at 1 p.m. And we did one February 28th, and I really enjoyed it. And we had a lot of people in who normally wouldn't be able to make it in because of the time zone differences. So last Sunday of the month, if that works for you, 1 p.m. Eastern, maybe we can have you in the studio and see how things are going. Oh, hey, Bert. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night yourself. Yeah, something very satisfying about sucking out detritus and bare bottom muscle. Yep. Yep. Oh, cool. Watch it after. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it was cool. I'm planning on contacting, excuse me, can't even speak, planning on contacting a few people that I've been in touch with over Instagram in other countries to see whether they can join and kind of give us an insight into what it's like to have reef tanks where they live. Because we had a really interesting conversation with K Reef, Kevin, in the Netherlands, and there's a bunch of stuff that's really different. And it's even the UK, it's very different over there. The equipment that you guys have that's easier to get in Europe than we can get over here. And Canada's kind of in a funny situation because there are a lot of distributors who don't offer their stuff for sale here. It is actually easier to get it from Europe than it is from the States. So I guess we find a way somehow. Ugly Man's Reefing. What's your favorite acro that you've kept successfully? Uh, I've had varied success with acros. My favorite, I think, is a pink tabling acro that I had, which had a kind of a minty green base skin and pink growing tips. And the polyps that came out of it were like a creamy yellow color, not a bright color. It was like a creamy yellow. And it took probably, I want to say 8 or 9 months before it actually started to base out on the rock where it was. And then I got it as a really small frag with like one branch. It was maybe half an inch across. The branch was about half an inch high. And when I lost it in the ammo lock incident, it was almost 2 inches in circumference, like in diameter, and the whole surface of it was covered with corallites that were coming up. I think it was about ready to take off. And I don't know what the name of it was, but the pale green skin with the bright pink tips and yellow polyps, it was really, really nice. And it was a tabling type. And when I get the new tank, that's what I'm looking for is I want to grow things into huge colonies to get a sense of what they actually look like, what their growth habit is. I know it's impacted by light and flow and everything else, and do some experiments. You know, can I make this thing grow a certain way by changing the flow, or putting the light a little brighter or a little darker? Just do some experimenting and see what I can do, because I've never really had the space to grow them big. And it's always been a problem when they get too big, because then what do? You have to trim them. So, yeah, I don't really know the name, sorry, but it's really nice. Oh, hey, Calypso's Reefs, Hector. Nice to see you. I'll be joining in a minute. Ah, that's awesome. So Hector has been doing something really cool, showing us on Instagram a DIY chiller. So I want to see that if he's able to show it to us. I don't know this time of night what the light is going to be like. Ooh, finally did some fragging on the acros. Cool. Yep. It's hard to start, but once you start, it's really it's another thing that's very satisfying. When you're done, you look at all those frags and it's like you can't believe there's 20 of them because it didn't feel like it while you were working on them. Good. Talking about the Hannah nitrate tester, did you like it? Um, yes, I appreciate the precision of it and that it can get low range. I've never had an issue with nutrients being too low. Mine are always too high. I don't know whether it's that I'm finally learning how to get things balanced well enough that the nutrients aren't overtaking things, or whether the systems that I'm running are becoming mature to where the growth of the corals and the other livestock is consuming the nutrients. And because I know how much to feed these days and I don't overdo it, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I'm getting low nutrients. And so that nitrate checker is going to allow me to do better at matching the nitrate levels between the holding tank and the new system, because I don't want my corals to get moved over and be starved out, because the nutrients over there have been low anyway. So it's not like they're going from surplus nutrients to nothing. They're going from low nutrients to nothing. And I don't want to take that risk. When I put out the video next week, I'll talk a little bit about the things I lost, how things are doing. I would say about 10% are not doing well, about 10% are doing really well, and all of the rest are hanging in, but they are showing signs of decline. And so I think it's just a matter of time before I'm going to be fighting with maintaining them. And I don't do the canister filter maintenance as often as I should. And a lot of it is that it's not in my house. So I'm not a morning person. So if I have to get up early and go and do something, it's probably not going to get done. I'll keep putting it off. And it just, so much is going to be better in my house. Because remember, I can also run those canisters on the 150 because, they hang over the edge. And if I want to maintain the biological stuff that's going on in there, it will be no problem at all for a couple of days or a week, to run the canisters on the 150 just for that purpose, to circulate that water through and pick up some nutrients from the horrible crud that I'm sure is in the bottom of the canister filters right now. And yeah, so so I will do another test on the Hannah checker tomorrow, the nitrate checker. And Reef Supplies had me the syringe within a day. So the 5 ml syringe that actually had marks on it. So there you go. That kind of customer service is really appreciated and pretty hard to beat. So kudos to them. Flow is everything. Yeah, I still have to get proper flow in that 150. I do have some acropora in there that do get polyps out, but I don't have enough flow of the right type to give them what they need. So over the next few days, I'll have to make a decision about pulling power heads from the other tank and bringing them here, and maybe that will encourage me to get moving the rocks and things. Let me see if anybody's asked for the link. Nope, and I sent Hector the link already. Cool. What else do we got here? You guys were all here last week when you saw the new wave maker I tested. So I don't know if anybody wants to see the new wave maker I tested last week again. Just let me know in the comments. Gyre pumps up top. You know what? I'm going to get that out of the box, because I have 2 of them. So for the purposes of an unboxing. Okay. Don't want to wreck my keyboard here. It's just a little one. Remove my Pepsi so I don't have a big disaster. There's the book. So when you open it up, I wonder if I can tilt this down a little more. This might be better. Look, live unboxing, live stream unboxing. I've never done this before. Grateful. Reef Supplies have great service. Bought a skimmer a year ago that came without a part in the box, and they sent me the part the next day. Yeah, but they really they go out of their way. We've had issues with RODI units where a part has broken off, and they do the same thing. They have it like virtually the next day. Okay. So there's a piece of styrofoam in here for padding. That's the only plastic or styrofoam that's actually in here. This one. Okay. It's in a paper tray, which I love because it's less plastic and closed cell foam that has to go to the landfill. So I'm impressed with that. Here's the controller. Big. Yeah, these are going upstairs, of course, because that's where the pumps are going to be. So I'll have one on either side of the tank. I'm mounting all of the stuff that has plugs on the left side of the tank is going to be plugged in on the left. And all of the stuff that has plugs on the right side is going to be plugged in on the right. None of this cords crossing across the back thing. Here's a power supply. Nice petite size. I'm not throwing that on the floor. They also give you extra rotors in black because the pump itself comes with the orange. Here's a power cord. Now let's get this puppy out of here. See if I can lift it with one hand. Okay. Yeah, see this? Nice paper tray. Okay, so here it is. So the black rotors, if you want to, you can replace these orange rotors with those. And here's the magnet assembly I was talking about earlier. I don't know whether this magnet is suitable to go underwater. And if it isn't, I'm just going to have to find something watertight, some sort of box or sleeve that I can put it in to have it in the overflow. Because if it's going on the back wall of the tank, that's where the overflow is going across, and it'll have to be submerged, obviously. So I'm not going to peel the plastic off, but it's heavy. It's got a really good weight to it. I have 3/4 inch glass on this tank, and it's rated for 0.7 inch thick glass. So I think it should be all right. I can't imagine it's going to be a problem for that little of a difference. And yeah, so never used a jar before. We'll see what happens. I guess I could put it in one of the stock tanks and fire it up. But then I would probably end up pushing the water out the other side because they're only 2 feet across. Those will be perfect. Yeah, I hope so. The water's only getting pushed 5.5 feet. So it's not like I have an 8 foot or 7 foot or 8 foot or even 6 foot tank to worry about. And I will have supplemental power heads going along the back across, aimed at the sand, at the back in the sand, kind of on an angle like I did with the Red Sea to keep detritus from settling back there. So that worked so well in the other tank that I'm going to try it again. And I also plan to have Seachy Voyager Nano power heads inside the overflow. And they'll be in there to prevent junk and gunk and detritus from settling on the bottom of the overflow. Because let me tell you, the Red Sea, when I took that tank apart, was pretty gross. Never ever had cleaned it out. Probably should have, but I never did. And this way, if I can keep that stuff suspended, it's the usual. Keep it suspended, it'll go down and get taken out with the mechanical filtration. Sean, I have to replace mine, have the biggest tons in on a C-sweep, an MP60, but my gyre broke. It was 2 years old. Yeah, I remember when they first came out, I was thinking, like, why are they so expensive? And I've always been very sort of price sensitive in terms of value for money. I don't mind spending the money if I think I'm getting value for it. And I think some things are just plain overpriced, and I won't buy them for that reason. You will love it. Oh, Anirudh, why? Joining your live stream after a long time. Can't wait to see your tank up and running. Oh, thank you. Yeah, me too. I am getting excited about it. Maybe it's because it's spring. You know, springtime, everything's new and renewal, and I'm just moving that so I don't knock it off the desk. So I don't think that would be under warranty. Oh, so that was cool. That was good to see it because, as I said, I had peeked into the box, totally impressed with the lack of styrofoam and foam and plastic in there. Of course, the thing is made of plastic, but packaging wise, it's very impressive. JT Reefer. Hey, JT Reefer, I have two MaxSpec 350. Yeah, those were the original, right? There was the 230 and the 350, if I'm correct. And I always felt like they were super expensive. These Canadian dollars, these were $321. So even some controllable power heads aren't available for that kind of money. Oh, look, Hector's here. Yay, I can invite Hector in. Hey, Hector, I'm going to bring you in now. Look at that. Very nice.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? No audio? Can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool.
Hi.
See you. You know, I've been meaning to catch up. I've had this problem with notifications on YouTube, and we got an email saying, I don't know if you got this email saying, oh, you know, the emails never get open to notify people of videos, blah, blah, blah. So we're not doing it anymore. And I went, well, that explains why I wasn't getting anything. And then I looked at my subscription thing today, and it was turned off. The email notification was turned off, and I'm going, well, I never did that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I have so much to catch up on with you guys.
How's everything going over there?
Good.
It's moving along, huh?
Good. Oh yeah, it's one of those things. You know, it took so long to reach this point, and now I'm almost panicking, thinking, are we going to be ready when the tank actually comes? Because I paid for it on January 23rd.
Okay.
So it's been almost 8 weeks now. And it could be on its way any day.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Oh, there's ATF in the house. Hey. How's it going, Alan? Hello, everyone. Ugly Man's Reefing. If you want to make sure your jar magnets are safe in the tank, you can always get a rubber-coated magnet to replace the one that came with the pump. Yeah, that's true. And K&J magnets in the States sell plastic and rubber-coated magnet for underwater use. I have to look into that. Thanks, Ugly Mans. Sean, hope you're doing well. Yeah, Hector, Sean Ugly Mans, he was in here on the international live stream a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So this is different now, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
very different.
It's back in the house.
Yeah.
I had to leave the Soul Cold studio
Okay.
because it didn't have no heat, and I had basically electrical heaters running all day long, and it's scary, when I'm at work and I'm not there, and you never know when a leak can pop out of nowhere and all that goody
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I spoke to the landlord a couple times, and he started complaining about all the things. Now, what I was telling him about what was going on down there, so I said, you know what, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to bring them back to the house. So I did bring back in the process. I said, you know what, since the 14-gallon glass was too thin, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna do the 24 gallons
Yeah.
and get it over with. So I
So
think it was the best decision that I made.
yeah, so the DNT squad tank is the 24 now.
Yeah, yeah. Everything is,
Nice.
is still in there. I had a couple corals from the 40 in there too.
Yeah.
But now I got more real estate. It looks way better. I still gotta, play with the corals in certain spots that are not getting no light, like the stylo in the front.
Hmm.
But I love it. I'm in love with the tank now.
Nice. And is that an AI Hydra you've got on the top?
No, no,
The
those are
light?
the two pixies together.
Oh, cool. You still have those. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, they still running. Yeah, yeah. I used the bracket from the Noopsy, and
Yeah.
let me turn on the light. Um,
Okay.
and guys, I did, at work, I'll be able to make up a little, whatever I want to make with metal. So I just did a little bar so I can connect both
Oh,
together.
yeah.
So
I
they
think I
there.
remember you showing this. That is really nice.
Yeah. So,
Really nice.
and I have to DIY something here real quick. Um, just until the new mesh screen gets here, because the one I ordered got stolen.
Oh,
So yeah, yeah. So now I'm basically all the mail goes, well, not the mail, but any package go to my job instead of coming over here.
wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
the
too.
first time that happened. The first time with the calcium reactor, the guy next door had it, and he never said nothing about it.
Huh.
But yeah, but the mesh screen I know definitely got stolen because nobody knows nothing about it.
Huh. Well, hey,
Yeah.
Marcus's Reef. Glad you could be here. Freestyle Traveler. Oh, check this out, Hector. Freestyle Traveler says there's a guy in Loma, Colorado selling a 500-gallon tank and two smaller tanks, 75 grand in gear for 5 grand. Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Wow. That's a
That's
bargain.
insane. He must be in a hurry.
Yep. He must be.
Wow. Oh, hey, ATF in the house says he lost a big weeping willow in his anemone tank. No idea why. Doing cleanup and frag salvage now. Oh man, that's too bad. Yeah, it's you know what it is? It's the no idea why thing. That
Yep.
gets me every time.
Right now, I got a couple of things that I lost myself in the move. Uh, I mean, last time it was a worse move, I could say, because I did it like in a rush. So I didn't plan nothing. I just moved the tanks. And this
Hmm.
time I planned everything, and I still lost a couple things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you
Oh,
move stuff, you always going to lose some stuff. So,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, Tyler D. Yeah, I didn't lose anything during a move, but I definitely have lost a few things since then because, well, it's like you said, things weren't getting light and there was nothing I could do about it because of the way I
mm-hmm.
had to pile the rocks up and
Yep.
they were going to collapse if I touched them. And, it's nerve wracking.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it was because I said, you know what? It was cold outside. They come in from a basement to the car, then from the car to the first floor over here. So I planned everything this time. I put a plastic bin in the trunk of the car with a heater and a power head. So I was moving
Hmm.
everything to the car, making sure it was there. And at the same time, I had to put new water in the tank because it was running
Yep.
empty. So
Oh, yeah.
I set this one up first on Friday, on Saturday, and then Sunday was the biggest one, but I think it was the easiest one. This one was the hardest one, the small one. I don't know why. I don't know why. Don't ask me how, but I don't know.
Wow.
But I think I cleaned the sump. I cleaned all the equipment. I think that's probably my nitrates one at below zero. So I
Hmm.
think that big change in 3 days, 15-gallon water change.
Yeah.
So I think all that played part in because it was the gummies, the Setosa.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Setosa and two acros.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is, you know. Everything else made it fine.
Yeah. That looks good.
Yeah, I'm in love with this one. Um,
I love that little center area you have. It's like when you plant a garden and
hmm
the idea is to make a path that
Yep.
draws your eye down the path. I really like it. And it goes to the cave under the arch. Like, it's
hmm
beautiful.
Let me turn on the floor so you can see the top view is beautiful. And like I said, I just got to play with coral placement because I know the SPS in the front is not going to do that well in there.
Yeah.
But for now,
Yeah.
I just waiting now for the tank be stable again, bring up the nitrates and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And then little by little,
Yeah. Nice.
I don't want to go crazy trying to bring those numbers up and then just make everything
Mhm.
worse.
No. And it's one thing if it happens and you didn't expect it or you didn't realize you should be careful about it. It's
hmm
another thing altogether if you know that you should be careful about it and you don't. And that's where I'm at with these nitrates and phosphates. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if it happened unexpectedly and I had no reason to realize I should be careful with them, that's fine. But I know I need to be careful with them, so
yeah,
I'm like, why not? Why not reduce the risk, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, Marcus's
This is
reef just coming in from under the house, bracing the floor. Ooh, ugh, sucks because it's
nice.
been most of the day and more to do tomorrow. Soggy clay, concrete blocks keep sinking into the clay. Oh man, I don't envy you that. Wow. Yeah, Tony Close says Hector looking amazing. It is
Thank you, thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And Skinner JW also tanks look great, Hector. So Hector,
Yeah,
have you seen this Nycrew 100-watt light?
no. Oh, hold
Oh,
on. Yeah, I have, I have.
Skinner JW is just asking if anybody's got experience with them. Is that the small one or the big one? Like, there's a smaller one. I have the smaller one. I put it on the holding tank at the one end because the torches and everything down there was not getting enough light.
A friend of mine
Um,
got him in his tank, and they doing good.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, he's not into SPS. He's more into LPS and stuff like that. And so far, so
Hmm.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing is, if I'm thinking right, they're the ones that you have to buy the timer separately,
Yep.
and
Yeah, I think so.
it loses the time, like it doesn't maintain the time if the power goes off. So it maintains the programming that you give it, but it doesn't maintain the actual clock time. And the number of times I've had to reset that thing when we've shut the power off for one reason or another, that's the only downside I can think of.
Yeah. No,
Hey,
my
how?
friend's tank, they doing really good. They doing really good in
Oh,
his tank.
nice. Tony Close is wondering how old your clownfish is.
This one, wow, this one I think been with me about 7, 8 years already.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the male. The female passed away when I was in the basement.
Oh, I
Also,
remember
my
that.
yeah, my
Yeah.
two firefish also. Um,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, they started beating each other up, and then this one started bullying the white clowns, and so I had to move him out of there. Once I put him here, try to stop the firefish from fighting, he started
Hmm.
bullying the firefish.
Huh.
So they went hiding. Boop, never came out.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's so hard to watch because you don't know what to do. You can see
yep.
them there, you know that they're declining, but what do you
Hmm.
do? Except take out the bully fish, and then where do you put that fish?
Exactly. And this one was when he was bullying the clowns over here, cause he teamed up with this one, it was bullying the other one. So
Hmm.
I want this as a pair. So I said, you know what? I gotta move you out. I put him on. I felt bad. I said, nope. Like he can be
Yeah.
in the sun. He was in the sun for like a month.
Wow.
So I almost forgot about him. So and say nope, because I would just go into the basement, fill the ATO, check alkalinity, and be out.
Yeah.
That was it.
I know the feeling. It doesn't feel right not to have your reef in your house.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It was
always
a weird feeling.
it's always on your mind.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, Skinner JW says the 100 watt is the mid size. Okay. Because I just have the small one. I don't even know if it's 100 watt. I don't think it is. Anyway, cool. And I see you still have your yellow tang. Or is
Yeah.
that the same
No,
one?
same one. Yeah, same one.
Cool.
I hear they cost money now.
Oh, no kidding.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's doing really good.
Cool.
All my fish, I think they used to moving around, so they don't care no more. Soon, soon as they taking water out, it's like they go inside the net by itself. I don't have to
Yeah,
chase
yeah.
them. I don't chase
They
them no more.
they know it's inevitable.
Yeah, and they say, "Oh, we're moving. where where to now?" uh, but Tank is doing good. At least for the most part, everything else is just there, growing slowly.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just looking up which NiCrew light I got, which one it was. The 50 watt that I got. Yeah. Okay. And Johnny Martinez says, "Hey Hector, your tank looks awesome.
Thank you, thank you.
Tanks look awesome. Cool. Nice.
Yeah, just gotta spend some time here. We got a close call. Well, not a close call, but we have to all go get tested again.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. My girl's still sick a little bit, just regular flu, nothing crazy. We all came back negative.
Okay.
Yeah, that
That's
was.
good.
It came from here, so my stepson got sick first, then my girl.
Hmm.
I didn't get sick, so but still
Yeah.
got tested. Everything came back negative. So
Well,
now
that's
I'll
a
spend
relief.
some time take care of the tank. Yeah, yeah, big one. She was getting
Yeah.
scared because she lost taste,
Yeah.
but it was probably all the flame and all that, and inside of her, she couldn't taste nothing. But I gave her sour candy, and she tasted it. So that's the tester right there.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Huh. Yeah, we're still just staying away from everybody because
Yeah.
I'm really tired of hearing conflicting news reports every day.
Hmm.
This vaccine, that vaccine, this age group gets it. No, it's that age group. No, you don't have it in your town where you live. You got to go to the
Yeah.
next town. But if you wait till July, they might have it in your town. Like it just,
Yeah.
I'm so sick of it. I just want to wait until they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I already told my job. I say, if you guys trying to make this mandatory, just fire me. Just fire
Yeah,
me because I'm not. Mm-mm, I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not.
and
They don't.
because
They don't got the flu
that's
vaccine. How they gonna have the
yeah,
COVID vaccine?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
it's pretty
crazy.
crazy. Well, and I heard on the news because here they've arranged to have some pharmacies be able to give the
Hmm.
shots.
Yep.
And it's on such short notice. And the reason is that like 500,000 doses are going to expire. Maybe it wasn't that many. I might be exaggerating, getting the
Yeah.
number wrong, but they were going to expire. So they suddenly decided, okay, we got to get these into the community. Let's send them to the pharmacies. So there was no notice. And the
Hmm. Hmm.
first day of the shots was pretty much first come, first serve.
Yep,
And
yep.
then they got the phone lines up and running so you could phone and make an appointment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a discussion about whether people should get the vaccine now or wait, because people want to choose which manufacturer they get based on all of the different data about effectiveness and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the pharmacist actually said, no, you should get the shot as soon as you can. And then down the road, if you have one that you need a second shot and the one you got isn't available, you can just get a second shot from whatever's available. And I'm thinking,
That's crazy.
hold on a minute, the whole thing. So, like the problem with it is it makes you lose confidence that anybody knows what the heck they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, yeah. They using us as guinea pigs.
Yeah, it's what it feels like. Oh,
Yeah.
look at that coral food going in there. Is that the Red Sea stuff?
Yep. Yep. The good
Cool.
stuff.
Nice. Oh, we got Alex G over here in the waiting room. I'm going to bring him in. And
Yeah.
Alex, and can you tell us about the project you've been working on, Hector?
Oh, the DIY chiller.
Yeah, I'll bring Alex in because he's probably going to be
Mhm.
interested in this. Hey, Alex,
Hey,
how are you?
it depends.
It depends. We're just we got Hector here, and he's been working on a DIY chiller.
Yeah, I was listening in while I was finishing up my work for tonight.
Yeah, yeah. So Hector, what made you decide to make a chiller? Is it the location you're in? Is it somewhere you
So
need it?
yeah, because last summer we went through that heat wave, so I'm trying to be ready. If we
Ah,
haven't moved out of this house by that time, and since I covered the stand, now the stand is pretty much covered completely. So I know the heat buildup is gonna go crazy this time.
yeah.
You see. So everything's covered all the way around, and I know fans is not gonna do the job. They
Yeah.
hardly did it last summer, so I decided let me try to do something,
It's
make it happen
it's
for.
tiny. It's really small. I like it.
It is. It's a little fridge they sell in Walmart for can of sodas. So what I did, I bought a 20 feet long hose and I coiled that in there. I don't want to say the bad word, but so it's coil in there. So I drilled the side. So since this I couldn't,
Ah,
get in Lowe's or Home Depot longer, so I could have both sides in. So I just used the one that has the same end.
yeah.
So I just drilled that thing until I can fit it in there. And when I pulled the hose from both sides, I just made it tighter so it don't move that much.
Huh.
I gotta clamp them just to make sure they move. But I was able to manage to bring that water low, really low, to
Wow.
67.
Holy
To
smokes.
67. So what I'm doing next is, because what I did inside, let me show you inside. It's stupid simple. It's nothing. Hold on.
So Hector, is it actual tank water that's going through the hose?
Well, so right now I was just testing just regular water.
Yeah.
But my plan is when I see the water getting warm, that's what I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna do with this hose, I'm gonna foil it in aluminum foil just so it can get colder in there,
Yeah.
and just connect it to the thermostat in the tank
Mm-hmm.
or to the temperature controller,
Mm-hmm.
and see if I can get away with it without needing to put fans all over the place.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So you're running your actual tank water through here then based on the thermostat.
yep, yep. No, but I'm gonna have the MaxiJet on at all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the water don't get static in there, and
Right. Yep.
whenever the tank
Gotcha.
need to cool down,
Yep.
then we'll see if it works. We'll see.
I was just
We'll see.
wondering about the fittings that are going through the side of the the cooler
Yeah.
there. What are they made of?
They the one that's Home Depot, just like the regulars we use.
Oh, okay, good.
It's-
Yeah,
yeah, just like the regulars.
because like we're so uber sensitive to what stuff is made of, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
cool. That is really cool. You're getting a lot of good compliments. Good thinking, Hector.
Thank you.
Straight Reefer says
Thank you.
dope.
I've never
Yeah.
seen one done with something that small before.
Wow.
So I've seen it with little mini fridges before, but
The Herm 14 says, Hector, that is innovative thinking. Very creative. I love it.
Thank you.
Steve,
Yeah,
do you remember?
and it's noiseless.
you,
It don't do no noise whatsoever. So
wow. Do you remember back when I first came across your channel when it was called Beyond the Reef? Honestly,
yeah.
that was what impressed me so much about your channel was this kind of stuff. Like you find things all over the place and make them work for your aquarium. And you were finding all of those really interesting off brands of hang on back filters and all kinds of stuff back then.
Mhm.
This is really
Yeah,
cool.
I started doing research and trying to see, what nano chillers are out there that are, got good reviews, but none has good reviews. And the one that had kind of good reviews was the expensive one, like $400.
Oh my
I didn't even
God.
spend $60 on this thing.
Wow.
Not even
I
Well,
love it.
$60. So
the case inside there, it other than where you poke those holes through it, it's waterproof, right? Like the inside. Yeah,
yeah.
because even then, if it got real bad, you could always take a few scoops of ice from the freezer or something and toss
Yeah.
the ice in there with it.
No, what I was thinking is just have water bottles ready and just take this out and just stuff them in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, that's a good one too, because
yeah.
that way
That's
you're not
awesome.
overdoing the poor little thing. It's trying to
Yeah,
go down its tank.
definitely. yeah.
Yeah, Hector, you mentioned you're going to put clamps on those connectors. Tyler D says that
Mhm.
hose gets soft when it warms up. It does. Indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Carlos 23. That is awesome. I can hardly
So,
wait and see how this works.
yeah, I had it running all night to see, how low since I set it up yesterday to today, and from 81.1. I was gonna go with the heater in to see if the heater and all that, but that will be the next test once I told the aluminum foil
Right. So the
and try to
Maxi
see if I
Jet,
can keep the heater on at all time.
right. The Maxi Jet is in your sump and it's going to be circulating this water all the time, right?
Yeah,
And then when you need it to be cool, the thermostat is going to turn on this little cooler.
the cooler, exactly.
Oh man, oh
Yeah.
man. And so
Yeah.
are you using like an Inkbird or something like that?
Yeah, I got the I forgot the name of mine. Elitech.
Oh yeah,
Hold
yep,
on. Yep.
yep.
So they
And
have
it's one
both the
that it does both
cooling.
heating. Does it do both heating and cooling? Or
Yep.
would you Oh, cool.
Heating
That
and cooling. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
Carlos 23 says, tell Hector he's still the reef treasure hunter. So true.
We'll see. Yeah, because I wanted to like put as much hose I can in there.
Yeah.
Because for me 20 feet wasn't long enough for when it gets hot. I mean, this tank got to 91 degrees on last summer.
Oh boy. And it's so hard to watch. Even if
So
you do put
yeah.
frozen water bottles in it, they heat up in no time.
Yeah. It was nothing I got. Well, the next step was putting an AC in but we have 4 ACs running in the house, so
Yeah.
that was a no at that time.
Well, if that little thing can't go, just upgrade to a freezer, a little mini
Yeah, to a
freezer.
mini fridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
this one will do the job. I think it will do the job. I got I got faith it will do the job.
That is
Yeah.
really
'Cause
nice.
now I got a little bit more water volume, so I know it's more water to cool down, but at the same time, it's more water to get hot. You know, to from it stay cooler more than what it's gonna get hot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. So we'll see. I got good faith it's gonna work.
So are you going to somehow hook both, like those two tanks, they're not plumbed together, right?
They are.
They are. Oh, man, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Mr.
Right there.
Genius guy. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
still are.
Nice.
Yeah, this one Stray Reefer gave it to me. It had an internal overflow
Yep.
drill on the bottom. So I
Yep.
just put two pieces of glass there, silicone the heck out of it, and then I drilled the back and made it different, so I could put the overflow because I wanted to use as much of real estate. So I didn't want to have
Yeah.
the internal overflow.
Yep. Very cool. Yeah, and of course you have it plumbed to the other tank, so you don't need a specific sump for this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So try to, organize a little bit. Has all my stuff in there. Still call Wasser.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever figure out what the problem was where you were getting those alk swings? I think that's the last
Um,
time we talked on the live stream here when you were having problems keeping it stable. You couldn't figure it out.
it was my fault. I put too much hot water on the bucket.
Uh,
So like I said, I was going in the basement too quick. It just in and out. So I
yeah.
just grabbed that scoop and just scoop for scoop like I do, and I think I went a little bit overboard. So I went all the way to 11,
Yeah.
and I left the tank alone. Just put in our water, and in 2 3 days it went down to 7. So it was a big swing.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Jessica J. Jessica J says looks good.
Thank you.
I like your
Thank you.
algae, macroalgae refugium over there too.
Doing really good
Wow.
too. Yeah, just
Yeah.
balance.
Very nice.
Yeah, I got dragon breath. This algae, I don't know the name.
Oh, that's not
Oh,
Caulerpa, is it?
no, it look kind of like the grape algae.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a form of Caulerpa.
Oh,
Well, look at
I
that.
can't see the.
Yeah,
Oh, can you get a little closer?
maybe. I don't know the names.
Yeah, no, yeah, just get your camera like really close to that so I can see the.
Let me see if I can zoom in. Hold on.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Caulerpa, I think Rasmosa.
oh, yeah.
I have to dig out my book. Yeah. Does it go asexual and die off in big clumps periodically?
Yeah, so far, well, I haven't seen it do that. So far, it's just growing and growing.
Hmm.
I removed the shado. I had a lot of shado. And then the shado got mixed up with one that looked like bubble algae, but it was a lot of tiny bubble algae.
Hmm.
Sun type. It was just kind of like grape algae, but just tiny, really tiny. So I just say, you know what, I'm gonna get rid of it, just in case there was some type of bubble algae, micro bubble algae. So I got rid of that, and I stayed with this one.
Yeah. Yeah, Jessica says that's a clean looking refugium.
Yeah, thank you. Everything is new right now, so I clean
Nice.
everything when I move the tanks back over here.
Yep.
It's a bunch of rocks in the back, but it's doing
Looks
good.
good.
System is getting stable again. I did add
Oh,
a new pump. I don't know the name. I just saw it on Amazon. I liked it, so it's really
Yeah.
quiet.
Cool.
You see, it's right here. I don't know if it's hard to see.
Oh yeah.
It was super, super quiet.
Nice. We got reefing with O in the waiting room too. Well, that chiller
Nice.
thing, Hector, thank you for showing us that. That is really going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Very,
I
very
will make a
cool.
video about it once it gets really hot.
Yep.
And see how
Cool.
it goes.
I'm going to watch for that. I don't care about notifications. I'm going to check. So I'm going to bring reefing with O in, and then Alex, maybe we can get an update from
Yep.
you on what's been going on with you today. Hey, O. Oh, he's got himself muted.
Mr. O.
Hey, O, we're going to get an update from Alex on his water test. Cool.
So what tank would you like to see the water test for first? Perhaps
Whichever.
the 150 that's empty.
Oh dear, that started full. Because I seem to remember water
was.
like maybe an inch from the top.
It was
Did you
full.
do it on purpose? Did you do it?
Well, yes, actually, I did. Because I pumped water into the big tank.
Right. I saw that at the end of the day. You were taking all the bracing and everything out. Ah, okay.
Yep. So we got about 200 gallons in this tank, probably. Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
Yep.
So
So how did it go?
Yep,
Did
the
you
fill
have
test
any?
has started.
Nice. Any surprises?
Not yet. my wife commented and actually came down here and asked that question. What will you do if? Yeah, she's like, what will you do if this starts to leak, honey? And I go, well, that's a good question. And if something happens, I could get a pump in here and pump water back into the 265.
Yep.
Because it's pretty low right now. And I siphoned out the water.
Oh, you're kind of freezing up a little bit on us there.
And I have another 200 gallons ready to go. So tomorrow, I will go ahead and pump. I'll bring this tank up to about 2/3. So yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking as always. The seal looks good. Just fingers crossed nothing else happens. The work I was doing was installing my cross braces. So because that's a rather big that it wasn't so important for the first foot or so of water, but as I climb up here, the pressure for this to try and bow will significantly increase. So
oh yeah.
I got those threaded rods in and everything, but I had to have some water in here before I installed these so I could tension up the back of the pond liner and pull it fairly tight.
Yeah. So are these going to be permanent in here then? Because they draw they draw the back towards the front, right? Like they keep it stable. Yeah.
Yep. So it's cool. You can't see it here that there's an aluminum plate on this side, and then it's a threaded rod that runs through, and then even though the PVC looks a little bowy there, I can assure you that it's just the PVC there to protect the threaded rod. So
yeah, because you wouldn't want corrosion on those things, I would imagine. No,
and that's why they're siliconed in, and they're pushed in with a lot of pressure to push on that pond liner, kind of like a little gasket seal. So that's why I kept some tension on them. But on the plus side of things, if I have to replace something, I can simply, I could put a clamp on here and tighten it up, loosen up the locking nuts, pull this out, inspect it. I'll probably see after a year or so. I'll probably pull one of them for an inspection and see how that's looking.
Yeah.
So,
Neat.
but
All the things you have to think of. Like, oh my God.
yeah, or like these little doohickeys here. I needed these when I installed the glass because the glass is attached to the pond liner, and the pond liner is only held on to the face of this tank with some little tiny screws. So if the glass tried to lean that way when the bracing was taken off and no water in the tank, this pond liner might have held it, but I don't want to test that. So
no kidding.
I made these pieces of acrylic and bent them with a heat gun, and then screwed them in here so that it'll just hold the weight of the glass up because it's resting on the bottom. So
Marcus's Reef says bourbon helps. If it's
that could make me do other dumb things though. With why don't we try and fill it all up at once and see how crazy I can really get?
Let's go for a swim.
Oh, this water is very cold. I'm not doing that. I have not tested my radiant heating system to scale yet because my dehumidifier has still not shown up and is sitting in some warehouse like 10 minutes from my house. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, not so thrilled about that because it was supposed to be here on between Tuesday and Wednesday last week. So it's been nearby. They just haven't brought it out to me yet. So I get that. I can get that hooked up, which I am starting to have a need with the volume of water in here now, which is why I'm keeping it cold and not circulating anything heavy, which I put on the old dehumidifier and it's pulling some air or some humidity out, but
yeah. Well, we felt pretty good about how things are going downstairs. My husband did get a wood moisture meter, and he checked the rafters or the joists, whatever they are, right above where the tank is at 7%. And he checked in another area and it's 4%. And so he's done a bunch of reading on what the acceptable ranges are and all that kind of thing. So we're going to keep a really close eye on it.
Well,
but the humidity
what's the acceptable range?
I think it's 3 to 7%, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so we're going to watch it. I mean, the humidity on the little devices that we have, the little portable ones that you can set places, is 43% in one area and 39% in another area. So since we put the lids on, started running the fan, we periodically open the window to the outside, but because it's a basement window and there's construction going on next door, we really haven't done that much. And so far, so good. So we'll just keep monitoring it. And he's keeping a log of what the readings are so we can identify any patterns that might make a difference. And it's quite a surprise. I really thought we would be closer to 50%.
Yeah, mine's slowly creeping up down here, but haven't been really concerned because it's just there'll be a giant dehumidifier in this space shortly. But
yeah, I
would like to have it sooner, and in my house, so I could turn it on at least and figure out how I'm going to duct it because, well, I don't have them done yet, but the two drain lines for the 700 will be coming in right here. So they got themselves a little trestle.
Yep.
And then I've got the 150 drains all done now. So these 2 inches are going to come in and dump into the back end. There'll be the 1 inch line that feeds this tank runs up here. And then that 4-inch line will eventually sit on top of here from the main display. And then that'll break out to 5 2-inch drains.
Wow.
And then there'll be 2 more 2-inch lines coming in down on the very bottom for the frag tank, which I still don't have glass because, well, I guess they decided not to put it on the truck this week. So.
Oh boy. Hey, I'm still waiting to find out which neighbor got the delivery notice for Canada Post for my gyre that I went and picked up because my tracking said, you can go, this will be available for pickup at whatever the place is across town. And the mailbox is 5 houses away from where I live. So could they come to my house? Oh no, heaven forbid they leave a card. And this is the second time in a row where I've got a card left. They don't leave it in my mailbox. So I don't know which neighbor it's gonna have been left with, but anyway, I went and picked it up based on the email, like the tracking. I was able to get it, but it's crazy.
Yeah, so no, this week was all about getting prepped for that 700, and then the 150 got filled, and that was running without a problem. So,
Yep.
Been making lots of water. It felt like my RO unit was running overtime. I did a cartridge swap and DI on all of it, so it actually has a shade of white and not some rusty orange on it now.
Yeah.
He's just showing off.
Yeah. Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I was having some microphone issues here.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Marcus's Reef, Alex says you've come a long way pretty quickly. Yeah, I agree.
This is I did not expect to be at this stage. Basically, I moved into my house December 2nd. So, a little over 3 months.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
we moved into our house November 7th. And it took us till, I don't even remember when we started, maybe early January before we could even get the sump up and running, the stock tanks. I really should put together a timeline of all of this because it's getting fuzzy as to when it all happened. But yeah.
Yeah, I really need to make an update video because I've been kind of walking through my update, and I'm like, this is going to be like a 2-hour long video if I keep doing work.
I know. Yeah.
So I have to summarize a lot of things, but on the plus side, things are moving along nicely. It's just at this point, I'd really like to get my dehumidifier, my glass, and my water storage tanks. So
yeah,
and I don't even know where my water storage tanks are at. I have to call because my email was not responded to. So
do you think it's supply chain? Like you said, your dehumidifier is just not making it to your place. It's not that it's not available, you're just not getting it.
Yeah, it's been sitting in a warehouse it was sitting in one warehouse in the Chicagoland area for basically since Monday. And it's funny because they had an estimated delivery date on it every day. And so Tuesday I looked at it and it said it was going to come Wednesday. And I go, oh, okay. So log in Wednesday and it says, oh, did we say Wednesday? We meant Thursday.
I had that with Canada Post. Oh yeah. It's so aggravating.
The funny thing is that Friday, it moved to Friday. And then Friday came and then it said it was supposed to be delivered on the 5th of this month, which has already passed. So,
yeah.
Kind of like, can't go negative with the dates. Like, I mean, maybe they're trying to put some pressure on someone to deliver it, but I'm hopeful that that's the close warehouse to me and it'll make it here Monday.
Is it a courier or is it the post office?
It's a courier. It's a freight company because the dehumidifier weighs like 70 pounds.
Yeah.
So I bought it from a bigger like plumbing supply company, and they were like, "Do you want us to bring a lift gate?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do actually," because I know how it works where someone will show up without one and they'll just be like, "Hey man, that's your problem, not mine."
Yeah, they leave it at the end of your driveway.
They won't even do that sometimes because they don't have to unload it. They just have to deliver it.
So if they deliver it and you don't happen to be there, what do they do? Leave it on the truck and drive away?
Well, they're supposed to call and make an appointment. There's a chance that somebody could just leave it there, but I work from home, so I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So,
Man, oh man.
yeah. you
the
know,
guys, my Red Sea Reefer, they left it in the street, and they didn't even put it on the curb. I'm in New York City, so it's an apartment building. So they,
Oh my God.
luckily, when the guy put it there and I kicked it the first time, it was obviously broken. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not signing for that. So you can either leave it there or I'll walk away. So, but the next guy at least helped me into the building. But the first guy just basically lifted off the truck, put it in the street, and said, "Hey, that's all that's all we're supposed to do."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other tank manufacturer that I was considering. Any tanks they build are FOB, their warehouse. So you have to arrange for your own shipping or your own. They recommend a tank mover that works with this stuff all the time. So you arrange to get this guy to go to their warehouse and bring it to your house. But
Yeah, there are some, I know, advanced acrylics when they do really big sums for you in California.
Yep.
They will say you'll get this free shipping, but then it's to a depot close to you. They'll send it to a trucking depot, and if you want to pay it to your house, then they'll give you additional costs, which I kind of like. I think a while ago I was thinking, like years ago, I was thinking of getting a glass cages tank or something. I think it is glass cages, but they only did truck stop delivery, and I don't drive.
yeah,
And a truck stop.
that's how I got my glass from them.
Yeah,
I met them about an hour away from the house.
I'm in New York City, and the closest one was in New Jersey somewhere. So there was no way for me. So that was out.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun. Truck in New York do not sound like anything. Like truck in downtown Chicago? No, thank you.
No. Well, as far as I know, the courier that they use, that in the case of my tank, shipping is included in the price to my house. So that was a big plus. And the courier that they use will have the proper equipment to lift it off the truck. So we're hoping that we'll get them to back the truck right up to the garage and that they'll be able to deposit it in our garage. That's the hope. So we'll see if it actually happens.
Oh, Hector's tanks look nice.
Aren't they beautiful?
I know. Is that an XR30 on a 25 Lagoon, Hector? I know his hands are in the tank now, so maybe he can't.
I can answer, Hector. Those are Pixie 30s that Hector has mounted on a bracket that he made. I know. I didn't think they were Radions. I thought they were AI Hydra. But
the Pixie 30s.
Pixie 30s.
I've never even heard of Pixie 30s. Is that like someone's custom made light?
Okay, you know what? We're not messing with you. Oh, they really are a thing. not like last week.
And I got them running this tank forever.
Yeah.
Hey, Hector, where are you, Hector?
In Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh man, you sound like you used to be in Queens, right?
No, I when I met you at ReefGrrl, but no, always from here, from New Haven.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I know. Okay, all right. I knew I met you or knew you somewhere.
Yeah, we met in ReefGrrl 2017, I think it was.
You were online, right?
What happened?
You were on the line when I met you.
Yeah, right behind.
Was it with your what? Oh, all right. I can't remember names. I'm terrible with names, but all right.
So, did you happen to be watching when Hector was showing us his DIY chiller?
No. Can I? DIY.
DIY chiller. This is impressive.
Okay. Can you demonstrate again, Hector? Because I am interested in this.
It is way cool.
It's not fake either. Oh, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
See, I had almost forgotten about that, and now you guys have brought me back in.
I was thinking you didn't trust me anymore.
So they sell this little fridge in Walmart for can of sodas. And I don't know, I just made it work and made it cool water. So all I did, I put 20 feet holes in there. coil in there, aluminum foil. I'm gonna fold the hose with aluminum foil also, just to make it more, I guess, cold. Drill the side right here, and I'm gonna have it running with a MaxiJet.
Okay.
Going through here, so connected to the temperature controller. So whenever it needs to cool down, we'll turn on these, and I guess water will get cold. That's my hopes.
Now, you know what? Because of Alex, I actually understand the science behind that, because Alex kind of cools or heated his old tank in the same premise. He just had like a coil from his like heating system or cooling system in a tank. So I actually, how much watt? How much? I know those things. I know. I don't know the model you're using, but I know like there's some that you can plug into a USB and can cool. Do you know how much power that uses?
What, this little fridge?
Yeah, the little fridge.
Let me see if we can see it in there. It's hard to see, but let me see. Voltage 120 volt, AC, DC 12 volts.
12 volts. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I have a question for Alex. Alex, do you think something like that will work better than like one of those dedicated mini aquarium chillers?
Well, it really comes down to the duty cycle. And the one thing Hector has here that is an advantage for him is that even if the thing isn't, if the little compressor that it has running in it fails, he could still, jam some ice bottles or ice into that thing and have it work. And that anytime you're looking at heating or cooling a space or water, it comes down to if you take a 10-watt heater and try to heat 1,000-gallon aquarium with it, it's just never going to go. But, something like this, if it's enough to take the edge off, which it sounds like Hector was doing some testing and he was making some pretty cold water with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just comes down to how long can it keep going before it, before the whatever the motor is and it can't do it anymore.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's like I guess the best thing I could make a good comparison to is like a peristaltic pump. Like a Neptune dose pump isn't designed to run 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
Yes.
like a Kimura, that motor is designed to run all like continuous duty. So that's what it comes down to with something small like this: is what's the duty cycle of what's running,
Yeah.
and if it's within it, or even you're just stressing it a little bit, it'll work. I mean, Hector, how much was this little thing?
$25.
For the fridge?
Yeah, Walmart.
All right.
Yep.
So for $25, I mean, you could buy like 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you burn one out, you can have another one ready to go.
Yep.
So it's...
You know what, Hector? I think I'm going to try that, because my kid's 25-gallon. I use a fan and it gets loud. So I think I would use this. And the fans, when you have to turn them up too high, they get really loud. I don't think I've posted a photo of this, but basically I took, those fans that you can clip onto a car seat?
Yep.
And the dual ones. So I basically mounted that to the wall in front of the tank and, use it to cool the tanks in the summer. But when you have to run them on high on those hot days, they get really loud in a bedroom. So I was thinking I wouldn't have the chiller run all the time. I would just have the chiller to if the tank gets those days where it'll get 82, 83 degrees and I just need to cool it by a couple of degrees, this would be sort of like the backup, where I wouldn't have to turn the fan up, to that where it makes a lot of noise. So for $25, man, I try it and then burn the thing out if it doesn't work. I thought you
Yeah.
were gonna say $100, but $25.
I was thinking to buy one of those nano ones. They got on Amazon, but the reviews they didn't convince me. So this thing is made to cool sodas, and you're not gonna be turning it on and off to cool sodas. You know, you're gonna have it on, just cooling sodas in.
I've used those nano ones. I mean, I've been through every chiller. It's sad.
Yeah.
It sounds, but I've been through the Iceworks one. I've been through the one where you have to drill the tank and put the probe in.
Yeah.
I've been through the JBJ, multiple different sizes of JBJ. I'm actually happy with a company called I forgot the name, but it's a European company that makes chillers now. Teco.
Yep.
I'm happy with a Teco chiller, but all the other ones, they're either the JBJ chillers are just so loud.
Yeah. And this thing is silent. Look, it's on right now.
All right,
Well,
I'm gonna try that.
You know,
So-
the other thing is too is that aquarium chillers are not. They've never been like they are like a niche of a niche item.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people never go to one
Yeah.
just because of the cost,
Yep.
and they're they're very expensive. They only get used part of the year. A lot of people seek other solutions before they get them, and then on top of that, when you're making something that's basically like a mini air conditioning system, I mean,
Yeah.
those components they get beat up.
Yeah.
The JBJ chillers, when I started keeping reef tanks 8 or 9 years ago, the JBJ chillers are the exact same from 8 or 9 years ago. Nothing has changed. From what I see with the Teco, they've had 3 models in 8 years. So at least
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And at least they make chillers for hydroponics. So it's not just a reef tank chiller. So, and from what I see, they're popular, especially whenever, I don't know if you guys watch Galleria Aquatica, like Cam the fish guy, he always uses the Teco chillers.
That. Yeah.
So I see them I saw them at Reefapalooza, California, Alex, when I went a couple of years ago, and they had a booth. They're the company that you always see, like, you're chilling the margaritas with their chillers. They have like a cool display like that where, hey man, it brings people in. So I like it. But they do have a bunch of different models for like hydroponics. So they're not just making reef tank chillers. They're doing it for hydroponics and for other, applications, terrariums and other applications. It just so happens that they'll rebrand it in a different color. So, planted tanks are green and then reef tanks will be red or a different color. So I think they're just, they do it for more than just reef tanks, and then it's marketed. But I actually, I'm using a 500. I'm using I think it's a quarter horsepower on my tank when I needed almost a full horsepower for JBJ. And my light bill in the summer months went down by about $65.
Wow.
Because you have some power monitoring with when you put the cost in, $65 less per month on the electric bill with using the Teco versus the JBJ. So I'm really happy with it.
So, do you have a drill?
A drill?
Yeah. Do you own a drill? That's the first thing I thought. You'll have to get somebody to drill the holes for you. It looks like about a half an inch or whatever.
Oh no, yeah, I have. Oh, I don't know. You see, it's gonna, for you and Alex to regain my trust, it's gonna take a while, because every question now, I'm like, huh?
I'm so
like,
sorry.
Where is this going?
Yes,
So,
I know.
Yeah,
Well,
I do have a drill. I think I can do. I think I can drill a fridge.
Oh, so, probably. And like, it's not like there's any wires or anything in there. I just remember you saying one time that you don't own a lot of tools. So that's what made me wonder.
I do. So yeah, I think for Christmas, Father's Day, my wife and my mother have been slowly gifting me tools. So I now have a drill. And I have a
Nice.
nice screwdriver. I have a toolbox now. I have
Cool.
like what do you call a plumbing adjustable wrench? I have a
Okay.
linesman pliers for like clipping and stripping wires. I have a
Yep.
pipe cutter, which is one of the best
Cool.
things that was ever invented.
For
I didn't
PV
realize.
Is
I
it for
didn't realize
PVC?
for PVC.
My
And
husband calls that the bobatizer. He's got 2 sizes.
it is like the best thing. I didn't
Yeah.
realize how often I would use it. Oh
There you
yeah.
go.
Oh, so Alex, the one you're holding, the gray one, I had that first, and I think that
Yeah.
broke when I was trying to cut like 2-inch Schedule 80. I snapped it, and then
Oh,
I think a new one. I think I need a new one.
Yeah, this one is only rated up to like 1. It's like 1 5/8, so it won't. Well, I wouldn't even do 1.5 on this thing, but even this one will do up to 2-inch. Because I saw it and I was like, ooh, but I already could see where I've made a small bend in the blade, and I got to actually slice into the PVC and then back it out and move it a little and then cut in again. Otherwise, it'll actually like shatter it because it won't get the bite to cut right away. But I actually got to see if I can get one of like an electric one that'll work with my my drill set and my batteries.
Yeah.
That's what I could use. Otherwise, I just use the saw.
I broke mine, but since I'm only cutting 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch PVC now, it doesn't. That 1-2 inch PVC shattered part of the blade, but I'm only cutting small pipes now, so it doesn't. It's still,
Yeah.
Right.
For all the small stuff, though, this is all the time I'm using it. It's just with the 2-inch. I relented and I cut a few pieces on the saw the other day. I was like, I can cut like 8 of these in the time I'm cutting one.
Yeah.
But 2-inch is a little different than most people have to get for their tanks.
Oh, hey, Nat King Reef. Glad you could make it in. Tyler D, this is something you might be able to shed some light on, Alex. Maybe put the MaxiJet on a timer. If it shoots out the first 1/2 gallon that's being stored in the fridge, it'll be cool, but the next bit may never get cool enough. I'm not sure I understand, Tyler, where you're going with that.
Yeah, so if the MaxiJet was and I think that was something that Hector was saying, was he kept the pump on all the time.
Yeah. He said he was going to run it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if he's going to run the MaxiJet all the time, it was that little fridge that would be on the controller to turn it on and off.
I was actually thinking, I think you were talking about dose pumps, and I was thinking of using like a Versa and just doing really small, like almost like a calcium reactor drip, and make sure I use, get as much tubing in the actual fridge itself, but just have it on a slow drip all the time. So, even though it might not be, cooling a lot, but I think, just a small amount should help mitigate, whatever heat.
And that's the thing about when you're trying to do a heat exchange, is like that exposure time and the efficiency of whatever the heat exchanger material is. Plastics and packs, they're not the greatest, when it comes to heat transfer.
Yeah.
But you don't want something that's ultra efficient either, because you don't want to heat up or cool down too quickly.
You want it to be as gradual and as stable as possible. Yeah, definitely.
So even what you're saying, is you just do it slow, and you'd be adding colder water in at a slower dose. You can have the same effect as something running water through really fast that just gets a tiny bit of heat removed from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You still have to balance it and see what's going to actually work. If the ultra cold drip is actually being effective, or something a little more with more flow works better for the situation. But I can see them both working.
Yeah, we ran into that with our radiant heat, because the Grundfos circulator that we have has 3 speeds. So the question becomes, do you run the heater temperature a little higher and go at low speed, or do you reduce the heater temperature and turn the pump on at a higher speed? Because the pump only draws 0.4 of an amp, and the heater is 1500 watt heater. It draws like, I want to say 7 amps, something like that. No, it isn't. It's 12.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say
11.
you
It's
need to-
11 point something. Yeah. So we had that same thing, and I wanted to set up a time lapse on the Inkbird and get one shot that had the heater, so with the light going on and off, and the Inkbird with the temperature. Because with the time lapse, there's a timestamp. So you could go through and figure out how long that little light was illuminated on the heater at the 3 different speeds on the pump, right? At a given temperature. And so we just went, you know what? It's working now. It'll take us a month of messing around with this to capture all that data. And right now, I just want to get it up and running and going. And who knows, maybe at some point in the future, I might actually take the time to do that. But that was our question was, is it better to run at a slower speed at a lower temperature, or a faster speed at a higher temperature, or a higher temperature and a lower speed and less often? Like there's all these variables, various ways you can put it together.
I found that running my chiller at a lower temperature takes a lot, because I take a temperature when the display tank first overflows into the sump. And I find that on really hot days, running slower flow through the chiller, the water gets colder and the tank takes a long time to cool the tank down to the point where it's registering. But so the first boot up in the morning, it takes a long time when it first starts getting hot. But then the chiller only has to turn on periodically throughout the day, once every hour for a few minutes. While I think when I run it the opposite, it runs a lot of small cycles throughout the day. So I think I prefer, I think I had a heat plan last year, to be honest, where, like if you use power within certain times, your electric was really cheap. So I sort of used that because I could get the chiller on, use the AC, turn the chiller on, get the apartment cool, and then sort of just barely use it throughout the day. I found that was better for my overall power management. But that's what I do. I don't know if one is better than the other, but that was better for my application.
I would say too is that in thinking of it just on the wear and tear of the mechanical devices, you run, if you got a hot water heater that'll, go like 10 different varieties of heat settings from ultra hot down to a lower heat, the lower the temperature you run on that means that you're going to put less power through those components. You run a pump at a lower speed, you're putting less power through those components. It's just more, it's reducing the wear and tear on the mechanical components. And that's why sometimes it's best to turn things down. And I know I just saw Jake Adams was talking about that with DC pumps and talking about how, you oversize it and then you turn the thing down. And it was kind of funny because as I was watching that, like a day later, I filled up my 150 and I got an 80 watt pump on that running the UV and the 150. Well, I turned it down to 45 watts because that's all it needed to run those two things.
Yeah.
Jake had me thinking also that maybe I wanted to go with a bigger pump and turn it down. But I think I already was running just too much flow through my display anyway. It's a 1,400 gallon per hour pump. I think when I did the calculations and even considered like a 20-25% head loss, I was still running 4 or 5 times turnover, which I think is fine. So I think I'm running at like 65 or 70%. And I think 3 to 4 times turnover is good. I think in the summer months, I might turn it up a little, just, because the chiller is working in the sump just to get more. But I think I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know. My philosophy on turnover and stuff has changed a lot since my last system because, once and Cindy, you'll see this too, getting into the bigger tanks, it's just not feasible to try and turn over a display with a return pump. And that's what we have all the supplemental flow pumps for.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just, I think that's one of those old school things that nobody had power heads back. It's like, what do you mean a power head? What's that?
Yeah,
a power head 301 or a 401?
Yep.
Well, MaxiJet, that was about it.
We also have the random flow nozzles. I'm getting 4 of those things because to me, that's another whole element that wasn't available when I first started the hobby. So,
I also realized that my Clarisy, when I run more turnover through my sump, my Clarisy goes faster, but it's a lighter brown. When I run slower flow, it lasts a lot longer, but it's a dirtier brown. So if you have high nutrients and you want to get them down, like run higher flow through your Clarisy. But if you're, I think, especially now with, me like taking the sand out and I'm going bare bottom, I think I'm going to eventually have like a nutrient limiting issue. And I'm okay with just, I'll tell the kids just, hey, just go nuts with the feeding. I don't have to watch the feeding anymore.
Yeah.
Just go nuts. Yeah. You can't, it's very hard. I know people, I've had even friends say to me, like, hey, just tell the kids to feed less, but it's very hard to, to like tell them to feed less. When you tell them feed less to them is still like a inch square of food each tank.
Yeah, that's right. It's interactive, and that's what makes it so fun for kids, right?
Yeah. They fight over trying to feed, and I don't think I want to get away with that. I'd rather just do more filtration and take care of it on the back end rather than sort of limiting that part of it for them.
Yeah. Did you see the comment that I put up there for you, Seymour?
Camaro kid, 40 breeder. I just want to say, reefing with O is my hero. Shook his hand and wrapped it. I appreciate that.
You remember 40 breeder from the old stream days?
40 breeder.
It sounds familiar.
The name sounds familiar. You know what? Every time I go to the LFS with my wife, and this only happens when I go with my wife, someone recognizes my voice and is like, "You're O, right?" And my wife gets a kick out of it. I mean, nowadays when we're wearing masks, people can't see me, but they're like, "I know that voice. It's Reefing with O." One guy said, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" And my wife finds it so hilarious.
You're a celebrity. That's awesome.
No.
A handful of times that has happened to me at Chicago shows, and one time at the local fish store, somebody recognized me well before COVID. But I remember my wife was with me one time, and she was just like, "What? They want why?" And I just thought it was hilarious because I was like, "Okay, I'll take a picture."
One guy said, "I bought everything you had," and I was like, "Why would you do that?" He said, "I bought the Red Sea. I bought everything you had." I was like, "Oh man, like why would you do that?" He said, "Because you were using everything, and I sort of believed, like everything you said. Why?" And I was like, "Oh."
And it was a whole big experiment.
Luckily, though. I think at that point I was using Ecotech equipment, so I felt good at the least that even though he spent a lot of money, at least it wasn't one of my crazy times where I was maybe using something, nuts. But that took me back a little bit. I was like, my gosh, maybe I got to be more careful.
You have to be careful because you don't know who's watching and what. It's like having little kids around. They take something from what you say, and you don't find out till a lot later that they were paying attention and you didn't think they were.
That is true.
Yeah, I see that a lot with. I do get a lot of people on Reef to Reef that I'll do PMs with, or I end up getting involved in just forum posts on with DIY and stuff. And I just saw one. I felt so bad looking at it because we didn't. somebody, I think they were out of England. They made a plywood aquarium, and apparently a seam failed on the inside of it, and you just see soaked plywood, and it was like a 90-gallon, and they're like, "What can I do to fix this?" And I chimed in on it, and I was like, "Well, I hate to tell you, but if the plywood got soaked through like that, there is no fixing that.
You're done.
You just have to get new plywood.
Yeah, which means you got to rebuild the whole thing. But you know what I was interested in, and we never saw in the forum post, was show me pictures of the other side of it and how you fiberglassed it and what you applied to it, because I didn't know what product they used either for the waterproofing on it, because it said there was some kind of pond paint or something, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of those out there, and some of them have much different results than others.
Yeah, like any product.
I don't know if you guys can see, but here is the remnants of my DI. So you can see it took me about, to get the lights in the ceiling hung properly. It took me, there's a lot of, there's a lot of,
you're like this tiny to me on the screen.
But you can see
here, let's
holes.
do this.
You can
There's
see
that better.
Oh, okay.
You can see 4 holes, and then behind the ones that the lights are actually hung in, there's a few more behind it. So I think to get 2 holes to hang my radions, and then another hole to hang AI Prime, I think it took me like 8 tries. Or like,
So are you drilling into concrete there? Oh.
No, it's a building, so I think that's, you know what? I don't know what it is, but it's not concrete.
Right.
Is that crack in the ceiling drywall by the window supposed to be there?
There is no crack in the ceiling.
Nice try, Alex.
I know.
I couldn't help it. I had to try.
I know.
Oh man.
Good try.
Now I'm looking for water on my floor as I say that.
Karma's a bitch, right?
I know.
Hey, my bad thing today was I had, here, I'll show it. So in my house, my water lines come in right here. And this little guy right here is like a drain for the water in the house. Well, it was sticking out here. So every time I walk by the tank, I would kind of brush against it. And I'm like, I'm going to snap this off one day, and I'm going to have a big mess on my hands. So I bought a couple of shark bite connectors to stick on here, which are slip connects for PVC and copper and everything else. So I bought a couple of them. I thought I was like, this is going to be a real quick job. My wife's asleep. She's not going to notice that I shut the water off in the house. So I got my cutters out, my fun gray ones that we were just talking about, and I cut the line right here. I grabbed my fitting to go measure it, and I realized, oopsie, I bought a 3/4 inch fitting, and I need 1 inch.
Ooh.
So I just cut through the water line of the house.
Oh boy.
Do you have like Home Depot close by?
Yeah, that's where I headed within about 30 seconds. So I go to Home Depot, I get the fittings, I come home, my wife's awake, and she's like, why is the water off?
Oh.
You can't get away with anything.
I was like, you noticed, huh? I was like, it'll be fixed in a minute. So I came down here, I put the fittings on, all was well, turned it back on, I go upstairs, I come down I had a bucket over here because I wanted to do this before I did this. And I come down here and I look at the floor and there's just a puddle of water going this way. And I'm like, where is that coming from? Well, one of the union fittings on the water meter over here was like hand loose.
Oh boy.
From you or from I guess when they did the house?
Probably just when they did the house, because I didn't touch that. I was only messing around up here, so I guess moving these pipes around a bit got that unsettled. So I turned it. I was like, touched it with my fingers and it started rotating. And I was like, oh, that's really not good. So I texted my wife upstairs and said, the water's getting shut off again. So I tightened that up, got the water back on. It's fine now. But that was my run around, oh crap moment today. So then I was like, well, what's going to happen with this now? So.
Yeah. Well, I got a super chat. Oh my God. Pelfrey. Thank you, Pelfrey. 400 million gallons of sump. Plus your husband, the real MVP. Oh, you're 100% right, Pelfrey. The stuff that he does is amazing, and the research he does into it, like there's no way I could do any of this.
I know. I wish I had a husband like that,
And he enjoys it, and that's the cool part of it, is that he doesn't roll his eyes or not want to do it. He really loves digging into this stuff and figuring out what the best thing is to do. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted, but thank you, Pelfrey.
It's all right. I'm just thinking about my wife coming down here and going, what's wrong with you? Why can't this just be your end of your aquariums? It's like, this is big enough. Can't this just be the display? And I'm like, no, this is just a filtration tank.
Is it a thing with, because my wife will say that to me, and then she's the one that, my wife hasn't been feeling well lately. So, I've been doing different things with the tank. So, like the other day, she let me know. She's like, I know I haven't been in the living room a lot recently, but I did notice you got a clam. And there's some, there's some this, and you took the sand out, and she noticed every little change. And I'm like, oh, I thought you weren't paying attention. She's like, oh, yeah. I just,
Oh, that clam grew out of the live rock. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. See, I used to be able to do that, but I think she watches enough videos now where she knows. Because I'll try to say, I was explaining something. I said, hey, Jake Adams said, and she's like, oh, yeah, the guy, from Colorado that sounds like this. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go again. For the tax of this super chat. Pelfrey, you're a nut bar.
Last night we saw some random YouTube video. We were kind of scrolling through funny things, and it was some reef aquarium tour, and it was like most expensive aquarium ever or something. And I'm like, all right, let's click on this just for fun. And it was like a 310 gallon. And I mean, it was really loaded up with Euphilia on one side and a big Lobo garden and SPS that were like packed together like sardines. I mean, it was a beautiful looking tank. And I'm just like, my wife's like, well, how much money do you think's tied up in all that? And I'm looking and I'm like, I was like, there's like an easy 20, 30 grand in there. Just looking at it. And then she goes, how big is that tank? And I was like, oh, it's 310 gallons. And she goes, how big is your tank going to be?
Her voice getting higher.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't really know yet. And she just said, BS, you know how big that's going to be. And I was like, well, it's going to be so many gallons. And she's like, if that tank costs that much, how much is your? And I'm like, well, hold on. It's like, I was like, some of those corals aren't particularly ones I'm super fond of, for one. And two, I was like, I'm going to grow a lot of things out and do trading. I'm not filling everything all at once. It's just not possible.
Thanks, O. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you do a lot of DIY. That I mean, the money you save making your own commercial grade equipment. Yeah, thank you, O.
You're welcome. I've tried making. I've calculated this stuff because I saw one by Parker's Reef recently. Yeah, it's a lot. It's amazing how much we spend on these tanks. Whenever I'm sort of explaining or showing my tank to someone, I'm like, this is a small tank. And they look at me, they're like, what do you consider like a big tank? I never even get to the point where I'm telling like Alex's tank. Like I'm just like, hey, you have people that have like 100, 150, 200 gallons like that, and their eyes just widen. I'm like, yeah, this is not a big tank. I'll show them the small one. I'll say, we call this nano because it's tiny.
Yeah.
And they just can't believe it.
Yep. I wonder if you did a calculation per ounce of water, how a nano might compare to a bigger tank, like a non-nano tank, because you still need to spend the same kind of money on equipment to a certain degree, even though the nano version might be a little less expensive. It's still going to be a couple $100 for whatever it is.
Yeah. I over the last 2 or 3 years, I have to say, I've fallen in love with nanos, because I think when I first started, it was kind of said like, hey, nanos are small, like the bigger the better, the more stability. But I see more people starting the hobby now with nano, like that Red Sea or Waterbox 170 liters. That's a good. But you know what I like with nano, especially my kids' 25 Lagoon, like whenever something goes wrong or I've neglected it because I was focusing on something else, it's 25 gallons, but it really only holds about 12, 13 gallons of water.
Yeah.
2 buckets and you've done a reset and you're back to zero. So it's not like you're crazy. So if you have a nano and you have a 5-gallon bucket, you just do water changes back to back. I don't care what people say about if your tank is not doing well, don't do anything slow. I don't know why people say that. Like, if your tank is out of whack and it's not looking good, I know people, sometimes we say like, hey, bring the salt back up small. Like, no, the corals are suffering. Bring them back to normal parameters as fast as you can.
Oh, I think water changes are probably a little bit exempt from that, depending on how bad the problem is.
I think as long as it's not going to like wildly swing in alkalinity or something like that, then I mean, a water change, it's just a water change.
Yep. A softy nano tank, and it wasn't looking good. I just did a couple 5-gallon buckets, and guess what? It was back to zero, and everything was looking happy again.
Well, think of all the toxins you're taking out. I mean, I honestly think that's what happens with softy tanks. They get buried under their own toxins. And,
I want my UV back.
That's what I got to research next is UV. I'm going to get in touch with American Aquarium Products. That's the company that I got the Vecton from, and see what their advice is, because those guys are like amazing what they know, and they do pond aquarium or pond UV and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go with them again. And they did me the favor of, they do free shipping in the US, and they allowed me to just pay the difference to get it shipped to Canada the last time I bought something from them. So I appreciate the ability to do that. I don't mind paying a little for shipping, but it just is ridiculous how much it is if there's no subsidy for it. I mean, if a company's going to do free shipping domestically, even if it is only 10 or 12 bucks, that's US money. So it really helps here, on this end.
Someone says that's what WWC does with the water changes on nanos. And I've developed a system where if I do a water change on the big tank, I just put that in the nano, whatever from the nano just goes into, because this tank, I'm loading it up with amino acids, it has food. So whatever kind of good stuff I have, I just, I wouldn't go the other direction because the nano has bubble algae, but I'll go, this direction. This has no aptasia, no bubble algae. So I'll go, from the big tank to the small tank. And I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think there's certain things. I mean, as we always say, nothing good ever happens fast in a reef tank, but the bad stuff happens fast. And it is true to a certain degree. I mean, if you overdose something massively, you have no option but to try and swap that water out to whatever degree you can to dilute it, or run carbon in the instance of if something goes toxic in your tank, get that carbon in there as quick as you can. If you're using flatworm exit and you end up with way, 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 way more than you thought you had, get
Yep.
that carbon in there, you know, like those kinds of things make a lot of sense. But you're right. If it's parameters and you haven't paid attention to your alkalinity and all of a sudden it's 13, you do not drop it down to 8.5. You know, you can only take it down, what is it, 1 DKH per day safely? So, you know, you're looking at a week before you can get it down. And even that for me is going too fast. So
Especially if you have SPS, I think
Yeah.
SPS, if you have any kind of SPS. I think I
Yeah.
like a salt. That's why I kind of like a salt where the alkalinity is lower. So if you need to add, because I don't think you can remove alkalinity from salt, but you can add.
Yeah, the Herm 14 wouldn't the course of the swing too quickly, slow water change a couple hours from each change. Yeah, I would say so. But I don't see that as slow. I see that as fast in terms of what we usually do. For me, I might wait a couple of days between things that I do, or a week if I have to make any changes. Like magnesium, if it gets too low, you don't jump it all up at the same at one go. But it's true when it comes to water changes. You know, I think you can correct a lot with a water change.
I actually keep a bucket of the ESV salt around, and that's my emergency water change thing, because the ESV salt, you can sort of measure. So I don't use it for water changes, but I know for ESV salt, like you can decide how much calcium, how much alkalinity, you know, how much
Oh, right.
sodium. It's the one where you put the sodium, the alkalinity, the
Yeah.
calcium, the magnesium. So I've been in situations before where I needed to do a water change. I overdosed calcium.
Mm-hmm.
So my calcium was going to be like 5 something. So I basically luckily I had water ready, and I just did the ESV salt, and water change was like 300 ppm calcium. And I was able to bring that down to about 470.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that's my emergency salt. I remember something, I think George Coralfish 12G did a video a while ago, and he made a joke. Similar, he said, hey, like, you know, big tanks, the water is stable, where if you put he was saying like in a nano, you know, if you tip a little bit of, I think he said poison, but you know, if you tip a little bit of poison in nano, your corals die fast. And then he said, if you tip a little bit of poison in a big tank, I think your corals still die fast. So he kind of backed out. I knew what he was trying to do, but I think he caught himself mid-sentence, and he was like, yeah, they'll die anyway. So just forget what I said. Let's just, you know, let me reset and find another point.
I don't know. Like, I feel that with the more water volume you have, you do buy some stability on the nitrogen cycle in those parameters. But for alkalinity, calcium, everything that's going to get pulled out by coral growth, having a large tank does not guarantee stability, because if you have it full of corals and it's consuming them at a high rate, it doesn't really matter that you got that, you know, you can have thousands of gallons of water. It doesn't really matter if it's the consumption's that high. It'll crash just like any other tank will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of scale.
Yeah. I think ammonia, though, nitrite, nitrate, phosphates to a certain extent, those you can handle a little bit better, because they just can't move as quickly in general. Unless you do something really messed up, but, you know.
Yeah.
I see.
So, are you going to try Hector's chiller idea and document it and make a video for us?
I think I'm going to start making videos again. I think so.
Yeah.
I think some stuff happened this week where I think I'm going to start making videos again.
Yeah.
I think I am. I'm going to start with some really simple stuff, but, you know.
Yep. Yeah. You need the headspace to do it. And that's where I've had a tough time lately, making a decision on how much of this do I capture, how detailed do I make it, and, you know, how much are people actually going to care about. So I try and pick out the things that I found I learned or surprised me or whatever, and and kind of focus on that and just leave all the rest for people to do their research, because every situation is different, you know. And that's what I was going to say about tank size. I mean, there are people who are absolutely temperamentally suited to a nano because it's within their control. And there are simple solutions that you just have to make the decision to do that thing. When you get to these bigger tanks, there's the complexity of that volume of water. There's the cost of it. There's how do you figure out what, like, for example, when I'm dosing the phosphate, I'm putting in 20 mils of this phosphate because I have 260 gallons. Well, 275 actually, but I'm basing it on 260. That's a lot. That stuff is super concentrated, and I'm dumping 20 mils in every day. So I've accepted the fact that I'm going to have to do this. I can't back it off because I need phosphate in there. I'd be much more comfortable going slower, but right now I can't. I've got to get the phosphate up in the next week or so because I've got to get the stuff moved over. So, you know, I just think it's all a matter of what you have to understand what your own limitations are. And
you brought up a really important point. Sorry, Alex, that I think I talked to ReefGrrl. It comes up in some of my conversation with ReefGrrl, and he says, you know, a lot of times he'll see people buy big tanks. He'll see people run into issues because they'll have big tanks and then don't realize how much it costs to like light it and then put power heads on it. And that stuff isn't necessarily considered beforehand. So what you end up happening is you have a big tank, but then you don't get the nice equipment to, I think the bigger tank you get, like, I don't know, I just think the more reliable your equipment has to be because, you know, so you'll get a big tank and then probably cheap out on the lights or cheap out on the return pump or cheap out something else. And then that's when things can end up going bad really fast. So I've seen it. It, you know, I've experienced it before. I've seen it happen with some friends where, you know, go get a giant tank and then the equipment or don't realize the cost on the back end. Even when I first started, I didn't realize like the actual glass box, the tank, like I don't have a cheap tank. It's a Red Sea Reefer. It was like $1,500 or $1,600 bucks. But in the grand scale of forget about corals. We're just talking, well, you can add, if you add corals in, that's probably such a minor cost of what the overall, if you're looking at the total cost of ownership for, let's say, 2 years, the actual glass box is a tiny sliver of the total cost of ownership over a 2-year period. So, yeah.
Well, I was looking at the Deltec. The 2 pumps and the skimmer were going to cost more than my entire Red Sea XL 425 that I had just for those pieces of equipment. And so this time I've gone with the Orfec lights, but I did get a price break from them. And these jump gyres, they're new, they're less expensive, but I still consider them like they're not cheap. Maybe they will be when I start running them. I might find out that they're cheap. I don't know, but from the research I did, they're okay. And now that I can't get Deltec and I'm switching to Seachy, by the way, my pumps are in and my skimmer's in. So I'm going to be picking those up this Wednesday because it's double points day. I'm getting the Aqua Vitro Division 500 skimmer.
You know what? You said that.
Yeah, and it's hard to find information on it because Seachem is the maker of it. They make Aqua Vitro. That whole
Division 500.
Yeah, and it's you can set it up to be recirculating.
Oh, this is the one that I think Jake Adams did a nice okay.
Yeah, and he's standing behind the table and he's got the 250 on the table and it goes from his waist to his shoulder. Well, I got the 500. So that thing is going to be massive and I can't even get any information on what the footprint is. So it'll be interesting when I bring it home from the store to figure out where the heck I'm going to put it. Because if we do the manifold system in the 150 section, I may have to put it in the section that I'm going to use for water changes and just cut a hole in the lid or whatever. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But those things, all of those things together, 2 pumps, the SDC 9.0, getting 2 of them, and the skimmer are cheaper than just the skimmer would have been from Deltec.
Okay.
So, you know, it's, and Sichi's a good brand. I trust it. And the Aqua Vitro, we'll see, you know, but it wasn't all that, it was $450 for the biggest one they make in that line. So we'll see. We'll see if I regret it. I don't know, but, you know.
I love recirculating skimmers. I think in my experience, they've pulled the most air because you know, one pump is just doing air generation and another one is doing feed, and you can independently tune them, which I like. It's just that for my application, it was just too big.
Yeah, and for both of those, I have to look at it and see. But if I can run 2 separate airlines in, I can put both of those outside, and I can pull that outside air in twice as much. So I have to see how it's set up. I'm not 100% able to figure it out because there's so little information available. But you can't buy them online. You can only buy them from a store, like the salinity salt that they put out. So
Aqua Vitro.
Yeah.
Why are my kids still up? It's like 10:41.
They know you're busy.
You know what they do. I don't think I've ever used that salt, Aqua Vitro Salinity.
I used it when I first started, and it's a completely synthetic salt. It's not a hot salt that I know of. I don't recall that issue. I now know what a hot salt is from mixing up my big tubs in my saltwater mixing station and dumping 50 gallons worth of salt in a bag into the thing, getting it on the cords that go into the little port in the top, and putting my hand in to wipe it off. Yeah, it's hot. It's very hot. I mean, not enough to burn you, but it's hot.
Yeah, hot salt.
So,
you saw the Herm? My girlfriend already spent $4,000 on a Red Sea. Oh, everything is not even.
And it's, you know, the funny thing is when you move up in size, it's no longer just the equipment. It's, hey, how much do those ball valves cost? Or the giant bulkheads that I need. You know, it's like it's all those little things where it's like, you know, I got a 50-foot drain line for my 150-gallon tank. I'll probably have at least 2 or 3 runs like that with 2-inch, and then I'll have a 4-inch drain, and then I'm going to use 4-inch, another form of 4-inch for venting. So
I love when, you know, I've seen it. I don't know if it happened on this stream, but I heard someone, I think it came up where like, hey, why doesn't Alex use like colored PVC? And I'm like, when you get to an inch and or maybe it was you, it came up somewhere, and we were like, I knew that even when I went from 1/2 inch to like a 1/2 inch to like 3/4 inch, the cost goes up significantly. So can you imagine, like, we're talking like if you're doing like a 1/2 inch ball valve, we're talking $25. When you get to a 2-inch ball valve, $70. So that's just the difference in cost. And we're talking, think of 2.5 times everything times.
Add a couple unions onto that.
Yes.
Elbows. And we had 4 of them in our system. Yeah.
It just gets, and that's just regular PVC. Imagine when you start doing Schedule 80 with the cost. You might as well do it and then paint it. Like, just have an exercise where you paint it yourself. Yeah.
It's very disappointing this didn't come in more than one color than gray.
How much was that, Alex, if you don't mind saying?
It was on the clearance table, 99 cents, right?
Had a couple more zeros on it. This was like, I want to say it was a little over $100 for this.
Yeah, see?
And I had to get 2 of them.
So do you have to make a stand for that so that the weight of it is supported?
Yeah, the PVC. Yeah, I'll have to do. I'll have to make I'm just going to refer to them as trestles now.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I know when someone comes in here, when I really get all the plumbing going, someone's going to look at it and be like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is this? Like a public aquarium or some kind of like utility, like the waterworks of Monopoly? What is this place?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just doing my flow calculations, because this 4-inch, I think 4-inch on gravity does about 14,000 gallons per hour through it.
Is that if the pipe is full? How full does the pipe actually get in a 4-inch?
Oh, it'll get full.
Full?
It'll get
Yeah.
full.
Yeah, it'll get full. That won't be a problem. No, and that's one other thing too, is that like I can't go to Home Depot and get the fittings I need.
Nope.
Technically, I can, because it is gravity feed. But the fact that it will be 100% full and it will have some
Pressure on it.
a little bit of pressure on it,
Yep.
I'm just going to buy the good Schedule 40 fittings that'll take the pressure rating, so that it'll have a deeper.
Yeah.
But like I gotta get at least one. Well, I'll probably end up getting a couple of 4-inch unions.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh my God, I know how much the 1.5-inch unions were that we
well,
had.
you can get Schedule 40 unions, so you don't have to pay for Schedule 81.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because really the thing is that the Schedule 80 takes really high pressure, and
they're thicker, so they're
most
is completely different. Yeah.
You actually get less flow because the inside diameter is smaller, but it takes high. It's for high. When I saw the pressure rating, I was like, we'll never. I'm just buying this for the looks. It's never going to get in an aquarium. You'll never get anywhere close to that.
Unless you got something even my system, it's never going to have that level of pressure on it. It's just we don't make pumps like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Oh
yeah,
it's all those little things in big systems.
And like my sand, I got 4 bags back here. I actually have 8 because that's the calculation I made to cover my whole tank around 1 inch deep. I would need 8 bags. Like they're $30 a bag, so $240 plus tax just for sand. I bought 2 Marco E400 cement kits because I didn't know if one would be enough for what I want to do. Turns out one would have been enough, but they're $50 each. Like all of these sort of not hidden, but supporting costs that you don't think about until you're right there and you go, oh, I need this so that I can do that. And then you start looking at the quantity you need and what the total cost is and that's the part that, I mean, I have the budget, but it kind of took me by surprise a little bit, how those things really do add up.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately is, and I laugh about it because I'm like, I'm not even in a display tank yet.
Yeah,
haven't even touched anything for that, and that's.
Marcus is wondering when you're going to quit playing and go play.
I don't think you're going to feel that's a statement that's going to have a problem being met when the next one gets done.
You could wear that bulkhead fitting as a hat. Yeah, it'd give you a headache, I imagine.
Yes, it's not very comfortable.
You look like a chess piece in Alice in Wonderland with that thing on your head.
This thing weighs like 5 or 6 pounds.
I bet.
And I did go thread on it too, because I was not going to solvent weld a 4-inch bulkhead and then be like, well, gotta cut this one out because I made a boo-boo.
Yeah. Did you try one and it leaked? Had you put one together and it leaked?
So it did leak on this HDPE tank, and I drained the tank, I pulled it out, and I siliconed it in.
Right.
Just because, honestly, if I was like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to have to make wrenches for this thing out of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked a question. I was going to say, what kind of wrench do you use to tighten a 4-inch bulkhead? I hope he doesn't have a wrench that actually tightens, because that thing,
You're,
I know he can't. He's probably
you're gonna
dragged.
laugh at this.
Yes.
Get ready. You're gonna laugh.
Oh,
Oh.
hey, if it works. Wait till you see the tool that my husband made me.
Oh,
to-
you actually made that to tighten it. Oh. See,
Hey, it works.
okay.
You need the
You know what?
leverage. That's what you
See-
need, the leverage.
See, I wouldn't have thought of that. Idiot me would have probably bought a 100-pound wrench.
Well,
And
the next thing I will do, if that was inadequate, which it was perfect for this, because the problem is that HDPE is not very smooth because it's a rotomolded tank. So, I mean, you could see the gasket on this thing.
Mhm.
This is not one of the nice foam ones that it'll take an imperfection with stride. Like, this needs some serious pressure to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to over tighten it either. So the silicone just got put onto the gasket on either side and then a little bit on the hole, and it just helps smooth everything out. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I know it's not a popular thing to do for some things, and usually for a glass or acrylic, you never would need to do it. But in rough surfaces that are uneven, you kind of almost have to sometimes.
Well, because the water will force its way right into the threads if there's any kind of a gap that it can get under from that rough surface.
Yeah, and it actually wasn't leaking from the thread side. From what I could tell, it just got under the gasket. So,
where do you get plumbing tape for that, Alex? Like, do you?
Oh, the Teflon tape.
I don't use Teflon tape anymore.
Okay, but Teflon tape is tiny. So what do you use on the threads to ensure a watertight seal?
So there's a couple things you could do. So they do make Teflon paste, and I have used that in the past, but it's very messy. Once it gets in the water, it floats around forever, and the toxicity of what it does to everything, I really don't have an answer for. So this one, I took this idea from Bill Wan. He was doing a talk, and he was talking about how he seals big plumbing fittings, silicone, just silicone one.
Interesting.
But then you can't unscrew it again.
Yeah, silicone doesn't stick to PVC.
You peel it off.
Yeah, it'll peel right off.
So that's why
it's watertight.
If you have a gap,
as long as you give it time to cure, it will hold water back. You don't need to Teflon it.
And here's what we learned: if you have a gap in your silicone, you can't just patch it. You got to start over because it won't stick to itself. So, if you go all the way around and you miss a little spot, or it gets tightened into the threads and it allows the water through, when you take that off, you have to start over. You can't just fill that up because the silicone won't stick to itself.
Yeah, so this is siliconed in.
So I can use silicone with even regular plumbing and then just unscrew it when I'm done?
Yeah, it'll break free. Hold on, you know what? I actually got one that I got to do this for. So give me a second here. I'll get my caulking gun out. I'll do it right now.
Hey, Pat Murphy. Glad you could come by. Plumber's putty, best ever. Yeah, Ugly Man said at least you won't have to worry about snails clogging it up. That's hilarious. Well, my husband made me a tool because I have a 1.5-inch ball valve that I'm unable to turn. It's one of the red-handled ones, and it's the bypass for my water change on my system. I have to open it when I want to divert the water into the last chamber and isolate the one chamber to do a water change. I'm unable to budge that thing. We actually had to return, or we had to get them to send us 2 new ones because the 2 we got couldn't be moved. So he made me a tool to turn the valve. And he based this tool on what plumbers use to turn small fittings underneath cabinets and things where they can't get their arm in. And it's basically a piece of PVC that fits over top of the center hub of the handle. and has 2 slots cut in it that go around the 2 vanes. So it's a pipe that goes down, and then he attached a long pipe to it with a cross at the top. So you push the thing down so the slots go over the handle, and you just rotate. And I can do it. I can do it all by myself. It's amazing.
All right. Until you said that last sentence, I thought you were taking me on a ride there somewhere.
No,
but I got it.
it's true. I could go down stairs and get it and bring it and show you. Oh, Alex is showing us something.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just siliconing this fitting in. So I just put it onto the thread, and I'm just going to crank it down until it's seated all the way. Let it sit for a day, and it's done.
And it's watertight.
Yeah, nothing will come through that as long as it's dry.
Ugly Man said at least snails wouldn't be able to clog up that 4-inch. And then Diacanthus said he's going to have to get a giant Cori now that you said that.
I will say this, though. If you do long plumbing runs and you do 4-inch, make sure you put clean out access into it.
What's clean out access?
And what have you cleaned out?
Nothing yet, but clean out access and drain access. So depending on what it is, I vary. But so like the 1.5-inch line for the 150 that goes all the way down there and comes back here and then all the way to the tank.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of water in this line. And it's not even running right now, but it's full. So I installed the drain into this line. So if I ever have to get in here to unclog something, I could pull a cap, I could open a valve and drain the line out.
Oh.
So, but the 4-inch, when the 4-inch goes in, just like that one you could see there, I'm going to put clean outs in it. So I could drain or also just get access to see what kind of marine buildup shows up.
Oh, I've never thought of that before. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when you get into real long plumbing runs, that it starts making a whole lot of sense. Like I did not do it on the 1.5-inch here because I figured a drain is enough, and this plumbing is. If something bad happens, I could cut out a section and deal with it with some unions. I just got to drain it.
All right. I have a question, a follow-up question. Your sump has enough capacity when those lines are full for them to drain into it?
So the way these lines are set up, the 150 gallons drain line, it comes down here and it lowers like a 1/2 inch every couple of feet, and then it comes up and then in, so the water will stop off right here.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
This drain line will remain full when it's done, and then I haven't the 2-inch drains that go to that tank over there. They'll do the same thing because they're gonna come up actually. I have to redo this, but I cut out a section here, so this is going to be the frag tank's going to feed the skimmer for now. So I'm going to bring this 2-inch line up. So in order for the water to get into the sump, it's going to have to come up to the level of the skimmer.
Yeah.
So yeah, the line will always be full, but that's why I have clean outs in it.
Yeah. So Alex Deep Reef says, guys, this live stream is great. Love the detail. And Deep Reef, if you haven't checked out Alex G's aquarium, you'll probably really enjoy what he's done before. I don't know if you've run across Alex G before. I don't know if I still have the banner where I wrote your channel name, Alex. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to put the channel name up.
Yeah, it's going to get busy back here with plumbing. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this is the rough end for the 2-inch lines coming off the 700 are going to come here. So they're going to, these lines will stay full too, but they're going to tee off here, and then I'm going to have air vents up high, and then once they get in the tank, they're probably going to go down and discharge by this 4-inch. So it'll bypass the UV before it goes back to the other tank.
Yeah, Reef the Sea Forever is asking how many tanks you have, and right now it's what, 3 that are ready to hold water? The 90, the 150, and the 700.
The 265 sump is fill tested and
Right.
partially full at the moment.
Okay.
The 150 here, this has been fill tested and is just empty because the water that was in here is now in the 700, which is in its fill test now. So this will probably receive another couple 100 gallons tomorrow. And then there's 200 gallons of water storage. This is my 400, which will ultimately be a frag tank.
You have a 400-gallon frag tank. Oh,
I know.
yeah.
Oh, I said that about 5 times when you first revealed.
He just said it so nonchalant.
400-gallon frag tank.
Over here, there will be 2 250-gallon water storage tanks that'll be fed from the 400. They're going to drain into that, and then those are going to drain back to the 265. And then, not even on the radar yet, but where this whole big pile of crap is right now, I'm going to build another sump tank here that it'll be the same height as the 265, but I haven't figured out how wide or long it's going to be yet. And that's going to sit here in a second UV sterilizer, the return pump for the main display, and then the return pump for this tank is going to be moved to the secondary sump.
Right. And I think we should explain for anyone who doesn't know, Alex, that this is only your fish room. This isn't even the room that's going to have the actual display tanks in it. So this is all the life support.
Yeah. This will eventually be the arrival center tank. So anybody new coming into the aquarium or anybody new coming in for fish is going to come here for a month. So this will be a standalone system.
How many gallons is that?
It's like 90 or 100.
Oh,
so
yeah, it's basically a 90-gallon acclimation box. All right, cool.
When you put it that way,
I mean, it just everything scales up. I mean, some of us have a 2-gallon acclimation box. You have a 90-gallon. It's just scale.
I'm going to use Mollywood. It's 40.
Did you have to get extra electric run to the house, Alex, because of this?
No, but I did have a sub panel installed for just aquarium stuff. So,
gotcha.
There is multiple dedicated circuits.
Yeah.
So,
we ended up putting in a 200 amp service, and we have a lot of 20 amp breakers.
Yeah, 200 standard over here. So I did have that. I just had a sub panel installed off of it for just the aquariums. That'll be 60 amps dedicated to aquarium stuff.
Wow.
So
for us, 100 would have been standard, and we know from the last house that it was borderline.
So temp tank here will go bye-bye. As soon as the 400's up, everybody except the Spanish hog is going to the 400. The Spanish hog's going to the 150 for now because he likes to eat snails.
Right.
And I desperately need them with all the hair algae in here.
So I guess that's a good reason to get the 150 up and running then.
Yeah, that was part of it. And then the display tank will go someplace in here, but that's not being shared.
I see furniture and things starting to accumulate in there, Alex. You're going to have to be careful that you don't fill it up.
I might put furniture where the tank is going to be. You just never know.
True enough. Oh, could you imagine a nice cushy recliner chair and the tank going up and over and sitting underneath it? Kind of like when you go to the aquarium, or is that too cheesy?
See, that's the thing, is that I always looked at those really elaborate tanks, and while people always would be like, "Oh, that's so cool! Like they made a carousel in an aquarium, or they made that cool thing," I go, "Yeah, who's gonna clean that?"
Yeah, exactly. I want to see the TV show that's the follow-up 2 months later, when all of those coral inserts are covered in nasty black, dark green hair algae. Like, that's what I want to see. I think that'd be a great TV show.
Just to hear the maintenance, I would have loved to do the maintenance contract for some of those, because I would have been like, "Oh, so you want this cleaned, huh? All right."
I have done some non-scientific research, and you have never seen a reefer who takes care of their tank actually build their tank like that. You will never see
like
one
those
of us.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not trying to make it a us versus them, but you've never seen someone that's always a tank where someone takes care of it. You've seen it with like Cam with Gallery Aquatica. You used to see it with like LA Fish guys when they used to make videos. Like, yeah, you would never see a reefer maybe it's not his first tank. Well, you never see a reefer on his second or third tank have like a curved glass tank, or something that's 4 inches deep, like those tanks that LA Fish guys used to build, where it's 4 inches deep and curved. Never see a reefer do that, because you can't clean that yourself. You need a service company.
Yeah, I'd hate to know, like, I'd love to see the expression on the person's face that's like, "I just spent like $100,000 on this tank. How much do you want to charge me a month to do maintenance?" And I'd be like, well, your aquarium is like a car, and it's like physically impossible to reach most of it, and you want it to look spotless. How about $2,000 a month? Does that sound good to you?
But to be honest, Alex, someone who's gonna spend
they might go, okay.
Someone who's gonna spend $100,000 on an aquarium in one shot, it's probably not thinking about that. Like I think collectively, Alex, by the time you're finished, you'll probably spend that on tanks in your lifetime, but it wasn't one time. It wasn't one time. It was, but I watched the LA Fish guys video like last year or maybe the year before, where he was setting up a tank for a guy, like that 4-foot deep tank. And I think he said the contract was for $30,000. And it got to the end of it where he was going to add like a Comore pump. And he's like, "Oh, I'll just put like a maxi jet to run the calcium reactor," because he's like, the customer's over budget.
Oh boy.
And I was thinking to myself, like, that is the difference between, and the reason why this stuck in my head is because I commented and I said, "Why would you do that?" Or why, and he said, "Oh, we lost that contract, so we no longer take care of that tank." And when they were building that tank, they were jabbing. He was making jabs at like the tank guys, because he was like, that aquarium company that does tanks on TV, So it was a little bit of a weird video, but I thought to myself, like, at 30, like, I'd be pissed if I learned that. I'd be pissed, because at that point, I would even want someone to come back to me and say, "Hey, man, you just spent 30 grand." To ask someone to spend an extra $200 on like a Comore pump or something to run their calcium reactor, or just eating that, because I'm pretty sure if they're paying 30, you have 15% of that or whatever is going into your fees. But can you imagine you've spent that? And to be honest, I think the tank was nice. It just wasn't my style, but it was still a nice tank. And then to put a maxi jet on it.
Yeah, I'm sometimes though. I mean, and I guess I because I did maintenance for a number of years, nothing at that scale, but when we'd have someone with a 200 or 300 gallon tank, and some people that had that were willing to say, "Just get whatever we need." And then there were others that were just the the cheapest people I'd ever meet in my life, and they'd be like, "Well, how much is that going to be? Can we do something cheaper than that?" And be like, "It's only $50. You have like a 400-gallon tank." No, it's 50's too much. I need something less. Okay. So.
And so these are people, though, who aren't really reef keepers. So they've not been through that whole learning curve of, problem solving and how to get the best bang for your buck. They just want something nice to look at.
I used to have some very interesting experiences as a maintenance person for aquariums in homes and businesses. From, I think one of the most memorable ones that I had, that this guy had a tank at his office, and he was a financial advisor kind of person. He sent me, he had RO water on site, and he used it all. And he's like, "Well, go run to my house and go get more." And I'm like, "Well, where do you live?" And he lived in some nice neighborhood nearby. So I went over there, and I'm like, "Well, nobody answered the door or anything." Or no, he didn't even tell me that. He's like, "Well, don't knock on the door or anything. The garage is open. Just walk in. My wife's home. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, huh? So I show up at this guy's house. There's like an electrician or some other maintenance guy over there. There's no sign of his wife anywhere that we see. And we call him up because that guy was talking to him too. And he goes, "Just go in. Just go in. Here's the garage code. Open the garage and go in. The door's open." We walk in this house, and I thought this woman was going to just collapse how scared we made her. Because we just, it's just two guys walking into her house, had no idea. And the husband, and then she's like, "Did he send you over here? I told him not to do that anymore. He's going to give me a heart attack." And I'm sitting here going, I don't want to get shot or have the cops called on me.
No
That's
kidding.
what I don't want.
Alex, I'm not doing that under any circumstance.
I completely understand, but I had one. I had to do maintenance at a house, a very nice house, and I had all the combinations to their security system and everything. So I'd let myself in. I always went there when nobody was home, and I'd let myself in. I'd disarm the security system. I'd clean the tank, and I'd leave. And my buddy that owned the maintenance company called me up the next day, and he's like, "Hey, did you just clean this tank?" And I go, "Well, yeah." And I'm like, "Why? What's wrong?" And he goes, "Well, I just want to let you know that you might get a call from the local police department there." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, why?" And he goes, "Well, their Mercedes." He goes, "Was there Mercedes in the garage when you went there?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't look. I walk in, I do my thing, and I leave." And he goes, "Well, it's kind of missing, and they know you were in the house."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "Okay." And then an hour later, after me freaking out, he calls me back and he goes, "Don't worry about it. They got their car back." And I'm like, "All right."
Where was it?
Their house sitter decided to borrow it without permission.
Oh. Hey, you went there by yourself in a van, an aquarium maintenance van, and then you left with two cars by yourself. I think
exactly.
You hooked the Mercedes. You were driving the Mercedes while pulling.
I didn't even have a work van. I was using my own car.
Yeah, but you were pulling a car behind another car out of a neighborhood. I'm pretty sure that didn't look.
Well, you could have left your car and taken their car.
Then that would have been a nice clue, right? "Hey, did you leave your car?"
I decided to upgrade after this. And I hated that tank too, because it was a 300-gallon in a wall, and one side was like an exercise room, but the other side was an entertainment room, but you couldn't get into the tank from that side. You could only do it from the exercise room. And on top of that, if I ever met the architect or the carpenter that they had that designed that, I would have like hurt that person, because not only was the tank 3 feet tall, but they had a foot of wood and trim above that, and then a tiny little door that you could barely fit your torso into if your hands were above your head. And that's how you had to clean this 300-gallon acrylic wall tank. And it was just, I mean, the thing was so scratched up. We used to have to climb physically on top of the tank to try and get in to reach the bottom.
Wow.
Which my buddy, I was like, you gave me this job because you hate doing it, don't you? And he just smiled and said, yes, I did.
So, Alex, here's a question I've always wondered about. For people that get their tanks looked after under contracts like that, do you feel like they generally take good care of their livestock and everything? Like, what's the correlation there? Is it just that they don't have time to do that kind of maintenance, or what do you think?
So there's kind of a mix. I had tanks I took care of that the customer was 100% basically hands off other than feeding it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that looked wrong, they would call and want help.
Mm-hmm.
I also had, so one of the clients I got to know really well, she was fairly active in her tank. And she did buy fish on her own and do some things on her own, but I think she had some back problems. So water changes were not something she could do.
Right.
So we would come over and do water changes for her. But it was kind of one of those funny things, because I had that customer call me up one day and be like, hey, we're going to be out of town. Could you come let our dogs out? And then just check the tank when you're going. Which none of these things ever work out well, when it's like, all I got to do is come in and let the dogs out,
mm-hmm.
feed the fish, check on them, and leave. And I go into the house, and they had 2 dogs. They had a puppy and an older dog. And it's like this time of year, like March or April.
Mm-hmm.
I go in, check the tank. Everything's fine. Their older dog is very slow. They're both very nice. I take them out in the backyard, and they were against a lake. Well, the puppy decided he wanted to go for a swim.
Oh my God.
So he went into the lake. And then their older dog, that was very slow, decided he wanted to go in too. And I had the hardest time trying to get him out of the lake. But the worst part is, I had to go into their house, and I'm like, I have to find like towels,
yeah,
like and stuff. It's like, this is way beyond what I like doing, because I don't like messing with people's houses when I'm in them.
Yeah.
But they laughed at it, because like their neighbor was out, and he's just laughing it up as I'm out there, because he knew I would be there. And he's just like, have fun, man. Like, oh, man. Then they're like, we can't believe the older dog went in the water. He hasn't done that in years. And I'm like, well, he did it this time.
It was your lucky day.
So, yeah, but yeah, some people wanted to do a lot. Others wanted hands off. Some people were kind of in the middle, where, how we all get in our moods of, we're going to do really good job taking care of things, and then sometimes not.
Yep.
So I had people that I service tanks for. I have some really weird stories doing maintenance. Really weird stuff.
I think we maybe we need a segment. We need a segment called Tech Talk with O, and we need a segment called Alex's Weird Tank Maintenance Stories.
I agree.
That's hilarious.
I agree.
Oh my God. Look at the time, you guys. 20 after 11. Wow. How do we do this? 3 hours. And the chat, the people in the chat had the fortitude, and everybody watching when we first started, to listen to me for how long did I go on for? I got to watch the replay.
Gallery Aquatica. I've seen him scuba dive into a tank before to clean it.
Yes.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, that's always a bonus with their videos, is when Cam ends up diving in the tank. It's hilarious.
I was fortunate. I never had that level of maintenance I had to do.
Yeah.
My fun ones were always when I'd be doing service at someone's house, and one of my very first maintenance customers, I took care of his tank for like a year. And then he goes, "Oh, you've been doing a good job here. I think I'll have you do the service on my tank downstairs too." And I'm like, "What? You have a tank downstairs?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a second 180 gallon with fresh water downstairs." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
There was a second tank you didn't know about?
Yeah, that job was one of the most interesting jobs that I've ever had to do with maintenance. So I met him working at the store. He was having a hard time with his fish only saltwater tank, wanted me to come out, take a look. So he lived in the city of Detroit, and it was not in the very best of neighborhoods, but very, very nice guy. His family was nice. Everybody was very welcoming and everything. I got over there the first day I'm over there, and I cleaned the tank, and partway through it, he tells me, he goes, "Well, hey, I have to go run and do some business." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I didn't think anything of it. And he goes, "Well, my wife is in the other room. Just tell her when you're done and she'll pay you." And I go, "Oh, okay." So I was only like 18 at the time. And I get the job done, and his wife was sleeping in the room. And so I had to like wake her up. So it scared the crap out of her. And then I'm like, "Yeah, he said you could pay me." And she's like, "Well, how much is it?" And, it was a big job. And I was like, "Oh, it's like $280. And she's looking through her purse, and she's like, "Well, I don't have that." And I'm just, and she's like, "Can you take a check?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I can't really do that. I really need cash." So she calls her husband, and he tells her on the phone to have me go to a parking lot at a gas station in a certain intersection, and said someone will walk up to you and they will pay you. Now, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and the neighborhood that he told me to go to, I was like, because she's like, "Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really know that neighborhood." And I was like, I'm just thinking, I'm like, that is a really dangerous place to go to, even during the day. And so I'm just kind of like looking at her, and she goes, "Well, how about I drive down there and you follow me, and I'll show you where to go." And I'm kind of like, I don't know. And then she goes, "Well, how about I give you a ride?" And I go, "Okay, I'll do that." So we go in the garage, go get in her car. She had some kind of Explorer. And as we get in the car and everything, she's just like, "I'm sorry, this is really embarrassing." She reaches down and hot wires it together to get it running. So I don't know why, but I think there's some assumptions that could potentially be made. So I'm like, all right, this is different. And we basically, we drove down to this intersection, parked at a gas station, and a gentleman I never saw before came up with a big wad of cash, said, how much do you need? And I said, 280. And he goes, I don't have that. Here's 300. And I go, okay, thank you.
Oh, God.
After that job, I always said, just make sure you could pay me while I'm there.
Yeah, no kidding. Johnny Martinez is loving your stories, Alex.
I mean, I knew something was like gonna be funny when you saw Alex's face when he's like, "Yeah."
You know what? I serviced that tank for like 3 or 4 years. He called me up every now and then. He'd come on down and do a water change. And I was like, all right, because I mean, being like an 18, 19-year-old kid, I was basically making like $100 an hour doing that job.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, it was a big job. I always was doing a ton of work for him. So,
yeah. And it is a specialized skill. I mean, if people take for granted how easy it is to look after an aquarium, especially a big aquarium, and you know, there's things that you need to know and you need to do right, because if you don't do them right, there's consequences. Impact of error, I think it's called.
I don't know if you guys are seeing it, but when I'm on YouTube, I'm seeing some trade school offering aquarium maintenance certificates or something.
Really? I've never seen
I
that.
haven't seen that one yet. But now that we talked about it, I'm something tells me it'll be in my ad feed now.
Yeah. Ugly Man said, I was starting to think the guy's wife was going to pay you in some other way. Actually, I wondered if that's where it was going.
I've never been, I was never solicited in any way at any of my jobs.
Oh, I was thought you were going to say
that's the official story.
Yeah, and he's sticking to it.
I have some other stories that are not live stream safe.
Well, I'm telling you,
are go down much different roads that I.
When that border opens, Alex, we're taking a road trip because I have to see in person what you got going on there, and I'd love to go to the shed again.
No, that'd be great if it's once everything's opened up. Come on into town. Well,
Reefapalooza Canada. I said Reefapalooza Canada. I meant Reefapalooza Chicago.
Yeah, we loved it. We really, really enjoyed that 5 days. I think we were there. Yeah,
it's
we really
happening
liked
this
it.
year.
Is
it's
it
happening?
Wow.
Yeah, they've announced the dates already, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't know.
I heard Orlando was on. I didn't see what the Chicago dates were.
Oh, they've announced New York is June. They've announced the dates. Yeah.
Our border, who knows when it's going to open, and I'm not sure when I want to travel. I want to make sure I have a vaccine before I travel.
I got mine today. Well, I got the first shot of mine today.
I saw that. Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, so I go back in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Hey, if things go the way they're saying, you know, I think we might be able to get them a whole lot quicker over here. So.
Yeah, well, in Canada, the problem is, I think I said this early in the stream, like the story changes every day. And, you know, my husband's getting sick of listening to me bitch about it, but I'm starting to tune out. I'm not in a hurry. I've lived quite comfortably for the last year without seeing any more people than I absolutely have to. And that suits my personality anyway. I'm not a super social person, right? Like I don't crave the company of others. And so I'll just wait. I'll wait till they figure out what they're doing. And then I'll go, because I mean, I'm diabetic, so I got to stay away from people that might, you know, be infectious or whatever, and got to be extra careful. So I'll just wait and see. And plus right now, I'm 64 and they're giving it to 60 to 64-year-olds. My husband's 66. So we can't go together and get the vaccine because they're not giving it to anyone over 65 unless you're like 80. Like it's just
is that what they're
messed
doing?
Up. It is so messed up.
New York City is at the point now where I think I went today and they didn't even verify anything. Like I think we're at the point now where you can go to some pharmacies because the Pfizer one, they cannot, once you take it out, you can't put it back in. So I think what happens is you can go to a lot of pharmacies and just say, hey, do you have any leftovers? And they'll just give it to you.
Yeah.
So that's available. The one I went today was totally run by the Air Force. They were all Air Force personnel, and people were in and out, all age groups, everything. I just saw something on Reddit. Somebody say, "Hey, things are open," and you could just sign up, and I went. They just asked for your ID, and they gave me a card, and it was. So I think we're at the. I think, but it might just be New York City.
Oh, the way they're talking, once May, I think they're talking by May, everybody's going to be eligible to sign up is the goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think here it's September, I think.
I think I saw a stat that says 10% of New York City has been fully vaccinated, and 17% of total city residents have at least one shot. And that's even without the Johnson & Johnson, which I think is one shot to be fully vaccinated. So I think I don't know what it is about New York City, but I think we're just I think they're opening restaurants at more capacity than we ever had last year.
Right.
The reefers, there's still people getting COVID. There is, and we haven't even gotten to the summer yet, and I do see people just walking around without masks in New York, where I think last year we weren't seeing that. So, but I'm the one that has to go out and do everything, go to the store. I need to take public transport. So I thought it was important that, I get the vaccine. So.
Yeah. Well, my grandson started daycare this week. This was his first full week. And with the daycare, essentially you end up handing your kid to strangers at the curb. You're not allowed to go in the place. You send stuff with them that has to stay there, including his snowsuit. So he comes home at the end of the day. The first day he has no snowsuit because they have to keep it. You don't send any food. You send an empty bottle, and they fill it. They give them the milk. They do all of the food. You can't send any toys. You supply diapers in a sealed package, and the kid's name is on it, and that's what they use. And I'm thinking, like, how you don't even know what that environment is like in there. I mean, okay, it's licensed. It has a really good reputation. It's regularly inspected. But you don't know how often it's inspected. You don't, like, you know what I mean? I would have a really, like, my daughter's doing great. I'm sure she doesn't like it, but she's dealing with it. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, he's such an impressionable age. Traumatizing experiences can change a kid, and all of this stuff that goes through. I mean, I'm a worrier anyway, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
I hope this doesn't sound horrible, but I'm kind of tired of my kids being home. I'm ready to shoot them off again.
Let's be honest. I think everybody in the world has had some trauma in their life in the last year.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
And I'm ready for my kids to go, but I don't see the point in sending them to school where they can't even interact with their friends. They're basically going to school to just be isolated behind.
Oh my God, just to learn.
Yeah, so I think I'd rather just keep them home. They have their phones. They talk to their friends all the time. I just think I wouldn't put them at risk if they can't, So.
Yeah, it's crazy times.
Hey, hopefully a few more months and we're out of this thing, and we can all get back to reef shows. And
I'm going to Reefapalooza thing. I haven't even told my wife yet, and I'm sure she's not going to be happy, but I am going to. Yeah. I think they're going to split it up into morning and afternoon, and you just go and leave. And I think they're going to have social distancing, all of that. But I think it's going to be a great show because I think people are just so pent up that
they're ready.
From what I've seen on with the small swaps that I've seen, and I think the hobby, I don't know, I think the hobby has grown a lot in the last year. I think a lot of people kept tanks. Yep. Here in New York, we have a cycle, and this is where I found a lot of used gear where, in the summer, you guys are in northern climates, so we see this too, where during the winter, starting September to about May, June, everyone takes care of their tanks. The stores are packed. Thanksgiving is the time when and then when the summer comes, people are out and about. They don't care for the tanks. So starting when people are getting in again in the end of September or end of August and September, they've realized, oh, the tank has too much algae. I haven't cared for it. So then it's time for them to start sell stuff. So you get good deals on used equipment because people are like, buy the entire tank for $1,000. That's how I ended up getting like, hey, I need the entire thing gone and just give me $1,000. I used to get good deals like that.
Yeah.
You don't see these deals anymore because people haven't. There was no cycle last year. Yeah, and I think we saw a lot of new reefers over the last year or so.
Yeah.
I think the shows are going to be nuts.
It's a great hobby, if, you know, especially if you're doing. I mean, you could do contactless coral trading with people and stuff.
Yeah.
Be like, leave the bag of corals at the curb. I'll come pick them up. Because you know, it's something to look at when you're home.
Well, I'll tell you, the last frag show I went to was called London Frag Fest. And London is a city about half an hour from where I'm living now, where I live now. I live here now. And I paid an extra $5 for my ticket. And I think the tickets were like $12. And if you paid $17, you could go in as a VIP. And there were like a limited number sold, just like ReefGrrl has those platinum passes. And so I paid the extra money, and I don't even think they were all sold because people can be cheap, right? They don't see the reason for it. But I went to every booth and I loaded up, and I got so many great pieces at such a good, I think I came home with 25 corals that time. And I was looking for maybe 2 things. And when it comes to this pandemic, if they have those advanced passes again, it's a great way to really avoid a crowd. So you go in, you do what you need to do, you wear your mask, you stay away, and then you get out. Don't even stick around for the day. Don't worry about the raffles, none of that other stuff. So those conditions are the conditions under which I would go to a show like that, because I'm still not trusting enough.
I was asking my friends, do you know of any fish store that went out of business during the pandemic? Because they've done so well. I watch Fragbox on TV. I watch Fragboxes, and they've done well. They're shipping. I think everyone has done well.
Anyone who could develop shipping has done really well, and shipping and do it right has done well.
Even my LFS, he, like, when it got real bad, like, he was doing curbside service for people.
Yeah.
And basically it set it up as he was taking pictures and putting stuff out that way. Just when I had my last system up, that was some of the corals that we were but when I was starting to break the tank down, he was actually putting photos up of stuff in my frag tank and selling them on his website. And then he'd be like, hey, I need this, this, and this. And I go, okay. And I'd bag them up. And I basically, like, I put them out on my lawn. You drive up, pick it up, and, like, leave me my store credit coins that we were trading for it. And so, yeah, I mean, he said it worked out really well for him.
Yep.
I think you got a question from someone, Simple Gaming.
Yeah, it's almost 3 months old. 0 months, 0 nitrates. Should I wait another 3 months before I add anything else? Is this going to be one of those questions that comes back and says, I'm thinking of getting 6 tangs and...
Oh, not that guy. I think he left the hobby. If we're talking about the guy, I think we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think you need nitrates before you put anything in. I mean, that's what I'm working on right now.
Is he asking about fish or just, if it's fish, I think he's good to add fish. He's
saying wait another 3 months or add anything else to the tank.
Oh, I always assume if they're asking, they're talking about fish. Oh, he said it's a small tank. Oh,
13.5 gallons.
Just put some bacteria and add a fish. If you're talking about fish.
Yeah, or if it's, I mean, without more detail, 000. I mean, if you've
he has 2 fish. He said he has 2 fish. Oh, so I think he can probably add with no nitrates, no phosphates, we could probably add soft coral and just. I don't know. These days, when I set up a new tank, I usually put corals in it almost immediately, and I think they always. I kind of believe what Jake Adams says, where I don't put any high-end SPS. I'm only putting like Montes or anything, but I kind of agree with Jake where he says corals really don't need to cycle.
Yeah.
So I tend
Well,
to
corals actually are the cycle. They contribute to the cycle, right? Isn't that's the basic theory?
As long as you don't put high end stuff in, yeah. Like
no, I put
I
like
remember
maybe a Monte.
No, he wants to get something for the clownfish. So asking about an anemone, well, I would think you'd need a more mature tank for an anemone.
Yeah, anemones are a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
They definitely should have something that's matured a little bit more.
Get a long tentacle toadstool. My clownfish love it. Or green hairy mushrooms. My clownfish love those too. And the pulsing xenia. The male clownfish is dancing in and out of the pulsing xenia today. Crazy, man.
I stay away from that.
Yeah.
You just got to get the right type of xenia. You got to get yourself a hetero xenia. That's the stuff we want. Your guy out there, Marine Farmers, grows that stuff, man.
No xenia. Listen, xenia and GSP. I have this argument with my wife all the time. No xenia, no GSP, no. What's the other one? Kenya tree. Never coming close to. Like I've made so many concessions to my wife, but those three corals are never coming close to my tank ever again.
If you got the giant valley xenia or any other that's. I think he's one of the few places. I think there's a couple others online that have hetero xenia now. It's not the same stuff, man. It doesn't grow that way.
Yeah.
It gets real big. It's slow growing.
Well, you know what I'm thinking of doing is cementing a whole bunch of the two little fishies, little rocks together in a platform, and make like a little platform that has like layers to it, whatever, and then resting that on top of another rock, kind of like a mushroom, right? Like so that it looks like a mushroom umbrella. And putting that at least 2 feet away from anything else in the tank on the sand in the front corner, and then letting the xenia grow on the little platform, because there'll be lots of crevices and stuff for it to anchor. That stuff likes to climb up. I've learned that about it. And that made me think, well, maybe I should put it on the back glass. And then I thought, well, no, because if I hate it, then I'm going to have to razor blade it off, and the whole tank is going to be full of floating ugly gunk. And then guess what? Yep. I'm going to have xenia everywhere. So I think the answer is keep the xenia down below in the sump. And I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know of anybody else except you and Alex who could give something 2 feet of space in their tanks. Like that just went over everyone's head, but I'm like 2 feet.
I will not. I will not get like Red Sea xenia or standard xenias, though. I will not do that. That stuff is a weed.
Yeah, it's really attractive, but it does need to be in large quantities to get the full effect. And you have to make a decision. Do I want a tank that's all xenia and fish? Because that's what you end up with.
And see, I might be inclined to do something like that in my big fish tank, where I don't really care because coral won't be the main concern there. But the couple times I tried to do that, like I put some Rhodactis mushrooms in, a couple things I was like, I don't think they'll touch this. Even the colt coral and the Sinularia, they ate it all.
Who ate it?
I don't. Well, I know the angels picked at it some, but between the angel and I don't know, maybe the puffer was taking chunks too here and there.
At the xenia? Well, if they eat xenia,
well, no, I didn't try xenia, but the colt coral, those things are not very tasty. They slowly withered those things away. The green Sinularia, they ate those, and then I had Rhodactis mushrooms I put in there. They ate those too.
What about you? Should try Kenya tree and xenia, and if they eat those, then I will applaud them.
I don't know if I don't know if I want to introduce Kenya tree into my system.
Yeah.
That one's like there's another blue green campanella that I do have that it drops similar, but it's much more appealing. That one maybe I would try, but
I bet you it
I'd
was.
be really hesitant of the nasty kind of zinnia that gets in there like a weed.
Yeah, and I bet you the fish just got offended by it. They probably just, just bumped into it and started, trying to move it, and yeah.
Yeah, you just never know. I mean, it's one of those things that you can't watch it 24/7. If someone's nipping at it, or they might have just knocked it off the rocks one day, or decided it would look better someplace else.
Exactly. Ugly Man says Xenium is great for taking up nitrate. Yeah, I've read that somewhere. I heard it somewhere. They are a good filter feeder. So I guess I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I got my shallow 50, and the way the overflow is set up, it's pretty hard for anything that's at all chunky to get through it. So, well, guys, we're looking at 11:45, and we still have 25 people hanging in here. So I think it's time to say goodnight. And I had a great time tonight. Thanks, guys, for the stories, and for Hector for coming in. And it was good.
All right. Good night, everyone. It was definitely fun.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yep.
We'll see how things go next week.
Yeah, we'll hear more aquarium stories. And I keep meaning to do research on controllers, and I just haven't done it. My life's too crazy.
You know what? That's good. Alex, you run an Apex, right?
Technically.
All right. I think I'm gonna go full hydros for a couple of different reasons, but I think I'm gonna dive right into it. In fact, I'm probably gonna order it. There's some things about it I like, but some of the stuff we'll talk about it offline. But
all right, cool.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go hydros.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll be interested in that. All right, thanks, guys, and thank you everybody in the chat. I appreciate the time you took, and we will see you next week. And the fourth Sunday of the month is the International 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll get a reminder video out for that. And so have a good week. Stay safe, and good night.
All right. Good night.